Chapter 6158. The people of the Imperial Sword Villa had made their move. Many people exclaimed. Jian Jingyin burst into laughter. With the Sword Emperor behind him, he was not afraid of anything. The Fire Wolf Emperor's face was also cold. He glanced at the villa in the distance and did not make another move. He was no match for the Sword Emperor. So he waved his sleeve and snorted coldly. Nanfei walked out and said with a smile, "It's just 3 days. In the blink of an eye we can wait." The others were also talking about it. 3 days later, they must go to the Imperial Sword Villa. Investigate, clearly, how did the dead come back to life? Jian Jingyin smiled and said, "Okay, then 3 days later, we respectfully invite you to the Imperial Sword Villa." As soon as he finished speaking, a cold voice came from the sky. In less than 3 days, the dead don't need to appear again. As soon as Zhang Xian said those words, a flaming palm came crashing down from above. This palm was extremely terrifying. The flames on it seemed to be able to destroy the sky and the earth. Jian Jingyin was shocked. He retreated frantically. At the same time, he shouted angrily, "Who is it? Who dares to challenge the Imperial Sword Villa?" The rest of the people were also stunned. Was the great emperor making a move? However, the few great emperors were also at a loss. At this moment, an angry shout came from the Imperial Sword Villa in the distance. Then a sword chi slashed over. Boom! That's great. Jian Jingyin was delighted. However, this time the situation was different. The golden hand grabbed hold of the sword chi and smashed it downwards. It directly enveloped the King of Killers. There was a loud boom. The King of Killers was hit before he even had time to scream. In the next moment, his body turned into ashes. Not even a drop of blood was left. He was dead. Everyone was dumbfounded. They did not expect that someone would kill the King of Killers in front of the Imperial Sword Villa. What kind of method was this? What kind of courage was this? At this moment, countless people were shocked. Who was it? Jian Jingyin was also scared. Fortunately, he left. Otherwise, he would be the one dead now. He shouted angrily, "Who are you? How dare you go against the Imperial Sword Villa? Do you want to die? Even the great emperor does not dare to challenge us here." In the sky, a cold voice rang out. "If I can kill him once, I can kill him a second time. I want to see how many times you can revive him." What? Kill him a second time? Could it be that this mysterious person was also the one who had made the move earlier? Who exactly was he? Jian Jingyin was also stunned. This was definitely a great emperor. He didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. Meanwhile, the other martial monarchs were curious. They immediately extended their souls to search for Qin Nan. However, at this moment, Lin Xian's voice rang in their ears. "Do you want to die? He dared to check my trail." The great emperors felt their souls tremble. What terrifying strength! They hurriedly retracted their souls, not daring to probe further. "Disciple, come back." From the Imperial Sword Villa's side, several sword chi rushed out and turned into a sword chi clone. This was a tall man surrounded by sword light. Countless people looked up at him. It was the Sword Emperor. No, it was the Sword Emperor's clone. "Master, someone is challenging us," Jian Jingyin hurriedly said. The Sword Emperor waved his hand and pulled him to his side. Then he said, "Everyone, in 3 days, the Imperial Sword Villa will open. I welcome you all." With that, he waved his sleeve and turned around to leave. He didn't fight? Could it be that the Sword Emperor was afraid? Or was there another reason? Everyone was surprised. One had to know that the Sword Emperor was in existence, even more terrifying than the Fire Wolf Emperor and the others. He was a peerless swordsman. One sword cut the sky, one sword cut the earth. No one was his match. But now, the Sword Emperor didn't make a move. This made countless people speculate. However, they could only wait 3 days to see the result. On the other side, in the Qin family's main hall, Lin Xian sat there again. Previously, It was naturally him who made the move. The king of killers was killed by him. How could he be revived? Now that the other party appeared, there must be something strange. However, he knew that it should be the Imperial Sword Villa who made the move. Therefore, he directly killed him. 3 days later, he would go to the Imperial Sword Villa, and everything would be clear. Qin Chongqing said, "Is someone really revived?" Lin Xian shook his head. "Impossible. At least the Imperial Sword Villa doesn't have this method." Previously, he used the power of reincarnation to destroy the other party's soul. How could the other party's soul be revived? Unless the other party also had the reincarnation sword. If that was the case, then it was not as simple as a sword spirit. Over at the Imperial Sword Villa, Jian Jingyan knelt on one knee. "Master, I didn't do my job well. Please punish me." The Sword Emperor looked at him and shook his head. "It's not your fault. The person who made the move should be a great emperor. It's normal that you are no match for him." "Then, Master, why didn't you make a move?" Jian Jingyun asked. He didn't think that the Sword Emperor was afraid of the other party. The Sword Emperor smiled. "Now is not the time. In 3 days, I will give these people a shock. Come here." With that, he waved his hand, and a figure flew over from afar. A terrifying divine fire erupted. When he saw this figure, Jian Jingyun's eyes almost popped out. The Golden Palm Emperor. He was stunned. He saw the Golden Palm Emperor being killed with his own eyes. How could he be alive? Could it be the same as the previous king of killers? The Sword Emperor said, "Yes, this great emperor's body is also our sword slave." Disciple, now you know how powerful this new sword spirit is, right? He can even control great emperors. It's fine if the great emperor who made the move today doesn't come in 3 days. If he dares to come in 3 days, I will turn him into a sword slave. Great, I can take revenge. Jian Jingyan was extremely excited. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, the people in the Sword City were all excited. They all set off for the Imperial Sword Villa. At this moment, the gate of the Imperial Sword Villa was already open. Near the gate, there were countless disciples with long swords on their backs waiting. Jian Jingyan was even more outstanding, with an imposing appearance. "Everyone, please." Jian Jingyan smiled and greeted those people. One by one, they were invited into the hall. However, when it was Nan Feiyu's turn, Nan Feiyu was angry. She stood in the void and looked down. She asked in a deep voice, "Only you? Your Imperial Sword Villa is really rude. Are you the only one sent to welcome a great emperor?" Nan Feiyu didn't go in. The others were also discussing, spiritedly. Indeed, the Imperial Sword Villa was powerful and had the Sword Emperor. However, in addition to the Sword Emperor, there were other great emperors in the Imperial Sword Villa. Even if the Sword Emperor didn't come out, he should have sent other great emperors to welcome him. After all, Nan Feiyu was also a supreme emperor. Jian Jingyan smiled. "Senior, don't be angry. I am not qualified to welcome you. It's someone else who will receive you." With that, he waved his hand. From the depths of the Imperial Sword Villa, a golden light streaked across. Then it turned into a figure and stood in front of the mountain gate. This figure was surrounded by golden light, especially his palms. There were divine flames dancing on them, and the sun, moon, and stars were rotating in them. "Golden Palm Emperor, you are still alive." In the sky, Nan Feiyu was dumbfounded. In the distance, the Thunder Emperor also rushed over quickly. Chapter 6159. Nan Feiyu was completely stunned. The man in front of him was the Golden Palm Emperor. How was that possible? She saw the Golden Palm Emperor being killed with her own eyes. Lei Dongdi was also dumbfounded. He was there too. The Fire Wolf Emperor and the others didn't go, but they also knew that a great emperor had died. They were still lamenting. The Golden Palm Emperor's strength was very strong, but how could he have been killed? What kind of being did he offend? They didn't expect to see the Golden Palm Emperor again. "You didn't die? How did you come back to life? Could it be that the sword villa really had the power to revive? Nan Fei Yu, Lei Dongdi, and the others landed and surrounded the Golden Palm Emperor. They quickly asked him, but the Golden Palm Emperor didn't say a word. Jian Jingyun said calmly, Golden Palm, you're too unruly. Hurry up and invite the seniors in. Everyone was going crazy. Jian Jingyun didn't want to live anymore. How dare he order a great emperor around? Wasn't he afraid of being slapped to death? Everyone below the great emperor was an ant. Even if Jian Jingyun was a sword genius, the eight-crown king, so what? He was still weak in the eyes of a great emperor. As expected, Nan Fei Yu, Lei Dongdi, and the others' eyes were filled with killing intent. They stared at Jingyun with hostility. But at this moment, the Golden Palm Emperor bowed slightly and said, Young master, you're right. I'll invite them in now. What was going on? Everyone was thunderstruck by this scene. Heavens! A great emperor has become a slave? He lowered his head to the eight-crown king. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. Jian Jingyin was so excited. He clenched his fists and wanted to laugh at the sky. Ha ha ha, it felt so good. Everyone's goal was to become a great emperor, because becoming a great emperor could surpass the heavens and earth and be admired by thousands. But so what? A great emperor obeyed his orders. If he told them to go east, they wouldn't dare to go west. This feeling made him feel as if he had become an unparalleled overlord. There was a hint of madness in his eyes. Just you wait. Sooner or later, all of you emperors will have to listen to my orders. Jian Jingyin was very arrogant now. What exactly happened? Nan Fei Yu grabbed the Golden Palm Emperor's hand and asked. The other great emperors also fixed their gazes on the other party. Had he become a puppet? Was his soul being controlled? Or could it be that after his rebirth, some unknown situation had occurred? They studied it closely. However, he still didn't find anything. The great emperor's faces darkened because the imperial sword villa was becoming more and more mysterious. Do they still want to go in? If the other party really did possess the power of an emperor sovereign, what would they do? Hesitation appeared in their eyes. Seeing this, Jian Jingyun's lips curled up. Humph. So what if you're a great emperor? Yesterday, you looked down on me. Today, I will step on you. Seniors, why aren't you going? Aren't you curious? He gloated. Brat, who allowed you to talk to me like this? The Thunder Emperor harumphed coldly. 2 thunderbolts leaped out from his eyes as he charged toward Jian Jingyun. Jian Jingyun jumped in fright. He had no time to dodge. Fortunately, the Golden Palm Emperor reached out his hand and caught the 2 lightning bolts. He came to Jian Jingyun and said, Don't hurt the young master. Golden Palm, are you crazy? Do you know what you're doing? He's just an 8-crown king, an ant. The Thunder Emperor roared. However, the Golden Palm Emperor was unmoved. The others were discussing spiritedly. They didn't understand why the great emperor would lower his head to the imperial sword villa. However, at this moment, another group of people came from the distance. They were from the Great Qin family. However, the person at the front wasn't from the Great Qin family, but Lin Xian. The Great Qin family people said, There seems to be a change in front. The Golden Palm Emperor is alive. He's alive again? Qin Changsheng and the elders of the Qin family were shocked. The Killer King was resurrected. Now, even the Golden Palm Emperor was resurrected. It was unbelievable. What kind of secret did the Imperial Sword Villa have? Lin Xian's eyes shone with a cold light. To be able to revive a Dharch? Interesting. I want to see what kind of power it is. He sped up. Qin Chongxing asked, Big brother, you killed him last time. Can you kill him again this time? Hearing this, the Qin family experts' eyelids twitched. What did he mean? They knew that Lin Xian killed the Killer King, but did he kill the Golden Palm Emperor too? What kind of joke was this? Since when were great emperors so easy to kill? It was very difficult for a great emperor to fall in a battle of the same level. Even if a great emperor was besieged and severely injured, however, it wasn't easy to die. The Golden Palm Emperor's death had caused a huge commotion. It had been tens of thousands of years since a great emperor had died. Lin Xian said indifferently, "If I can kill him once, I can kill him again. Let's see what's going on first." He said it so casually, but the Qin family people felt a headache coming on. Did this guy really kill the Golden Palm Emperor? Wait, could it be that he was the mysterious person who killed the Golden Palm Emperor? Thinking of this, the Qin family people almost knelt on the ground. Back then, several great emperors besieged the divine item that fell from the sky. They saw the mysterious figure in the crystal. He defeated the great emperors, killed the Golden Palm Emperor, and swallowed 3,000 dragon veins. Everything that happened was like a legend. Could it be that the young man in front of him was the one who did it? If so, the Imperial Sword Villa would be shrouded in a storm this time. The Thunder Emperor and the others were still confronting the Golden Palm Emperor. The Golden Palm Emperor's aura became more and more terrifying. A pair of golden palms seemed to be able to split the sky and earth. Not only that, the other party seemed to have a kind of sharpness of sword chi. The Thunder Emperor and the others frowned. At this moment, the crowd behind them dispersed. Qin Changxing shouted, "Get out of the way, get out of the way, my big brother is here." Who was so arrogant? How dare he be so presumptuous in front of a great emperor? It was Qin Changxing. So it was him, this guy who was courting death. When did Qin Changxing have a big brother? Wasn't this guy afraid of nothing? All kinds of discussions came. Even the martial monarchs frowned and glanced at him coldly. However, at this moment, the Golden Palm Emperor roared. Suddenly, a strong killing intent was released from his eyes. Instantly, the sky fell and the earth cracked. The surrounding people were frightened and quickly retreated. The great emperors were also stunned. Jian Jingyin was sent flying by the killing intent, and he was vomiting blood. Was he crazy? What was going on with the Golden Palm Emperor? Just as everyone was confused, the Golden Palm Emperor suddenly rushed forward. He was attacking the great Qin family. Could it be Qin Changsheng, this reckless guy who had offended him? It was over. This guy was really going to die this time. The Qin family people were in despair. Under the power of a great emperor, they kept retreating. Everyone was about to kneel on the ground. However, at this moment, Lin Xian took a step forward and looked at the great emperor in front of him. He said calmly, "Kneel." Chapter 6160. At this moment of crisis, Lin Xian stood up and said, "Kneel down." Everyone went crazy. Even if he was courting death, he shouldn't have done this. He would die without a burial place. One had to know that even if Jian Jingyin was so arrogant, he only dared to order the great emperor. Jian Jingyin wouldn't dare to make the great emperor kneel down. However, this kid in front of him made the great emperor kneel down. He was even more courting death than Qin Changsheng. On the other hand, the Golden Palm Emperor trembled as if he had been struck by lightning. A wave of fear came from the depths of his body. His body seemed to be out of control. With a plop, he knelt on the ground. Boom! The ground was shattered into pieces, resulting in huge cracks and dust flying into the air. However, everyone couldn't care less about this. Their eyes were about to pop out. The Golden Palm Emperor actually knelt down. This scene was like a dream. The surrounding top families and sects, even the Imperial Sword Villa, Nanfeiyu and other great emperors gasped. Everyone's mind was blank. That was a great emperor, a supreme existence that surpassed heaven and earth. Those below the great emperor were all ants. Those above the great emperor were immortals. Such a terrifying master actually knelt down in front of a strange young man. They couldn't believe it. In the distance, Jian Jingyin was also trembling in fear. How was this possible? How was this possible? He was someone who knew the inside story. Although the Golden Palm Emperor wasn't resurrected, he was controlled by the sword spirit and restored his body. However, he shouldn't have knelt down. One had to know that the other party was different from the Killer King. The other party was a true great emperor. Even if he was dead, the great emperor's body and bloodline were still there. Even the sword emperor couldn't make the golden palm emperor kneel. However, this kid in front of him did it easily. Could it be that this kid was stronger than the sword emperor? This was impossible. Thinking of this, Jian Jingyun shook his head frantically. Lin Xian looked at the other party. There was a cold light in his eyes. Just you? Do you think it's possible to attack me? Also, even though your body is yours, your soul isn't. Who exactly are you? Lin Xian seemed to have transformed into a supreme ruler, looking down on the Golden Palm Emperor. The Golden Palm Emperor's body trembled. In his mind, the power of the sword spirit began to sway. Let me see, what exactly are you? In Lin Xian's eyes, the light of reincarnation shone brightly and enveloped the Golden Palm Emperor. The sword spirit was frightened and let out a scream. Then it turned into a ray of light and flew into the Imperial Sword Villa. As soon as the sword spirit left, the Golden Palm Emperor's body fell to the ground with a loud thud. What's going on? The surrounding people were dumbfounded. The great emperors furrowed their brows tightly. That sword energy was so strange. It had rushed out of the Golden Palm Emperor's soul. Could it be that this thing was controlling the Golden Palm Martial Monarch? However, as soon as that thing left, the Golden Palm Emperor's life force disappeared. Although there was still chi and blood, there were no signs of life. This meant that the Golden Palm Emperor only had his body left. His soul had long disappeared. Strange, it was just too strange. The Imperial Sword Villa had a supreme secret. The people of the Imperial Sword Villa were scared silly. The sword spirit was frightened. At this moment, an old man rushed out and shouted, "How dare you? Do you dare to go against the Imperial Sword Villa?" The person who came out was the first elder of the Imperial Sword Villa. He was also a great emperor. His angry roar shook the earth and mountains. The people of the Imperial Sword Villa also roared. Jian Jingyun even walked out. He pulled out his long sword and said, "Brothers, follow me to kill the enemy." Kill! Thousands of swordsmen pulled out their long swords. Their murderous aura soared into the sky. The terrifying sword intent made the surrounding people's scalps tingle. For a moment, everyone retreated. Was a great battle about to break out? Someone said. They had no choice. They had been slapped in the face in front of the Imperial Sword Villa. If they didn't fight back, the Imperial Sword Villa would lose all their face. They wouldn't have the face to come out in the future. Just you? Lin Xian looked at these swordsmen with a trace of disdain in his eyes. Although he couldn't use his immortal power easily and he was still injured, he wasn't someone these people could challenge. Lin Xian snorted and was about to attack. However, at this moment, the Fire Wolf Emperor exclaimed, "It's you!" Nan Fei Yu and the others were stunned. What's going on? You know him. The Fire Wolf Emperor didn't say anything. Instead, he walked to the front and bowed deeply. So it's young master. I didn't recognize you before. Please forgive me. Greetings, young master. The Vermilion Bird Emperor walked out and bowed deeply. Greetings, young master. Greetings, young master. The three great emperors bowed, and their voices shook the world. For a moment, countless people were stunned. Even the first elder of the Imperial Sword Villa felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Why are you three doing this? Do you want to go against our Imperial Sword Villa too? The Fire Wolf Emperor snorted coldly. Stupid! How can you compare to young master's strength? Giant Sword, I advise you to back off. Your Imperial Sword Villa is no match for him. The first elder was known as the Giant Sword Emperor. He was furious. Not a match? Him. If you don't protect him, I can kill him with one strike. The Fire Wolf Emperor and the others shook their heads. They felt that the Giant Sword Emperor was too arrogant. They had already recognized Lin Xian. Wasn't this the mysterious youth who had appeared in the fiery god tree's territory? He was someone who had entered the depths of the fiery god tree's territory and spoken directly with the fiery god tree. One had to know that even if the three great emperors joined forces, they wouldn't be able to fight against the fiery god tree. However, this youth could. He had walked out of the fiery god tree's territory unscathed. This meant that even the fiery god tree was wary of this youth's strength. Such a person wasn't someone the giant Sword Emperor could challenge. However, the giant Sword Emperor didn't know that. The first elder of the Imperial Sword Villa snorted coldly. He waved his hand, and a giant sword appeared in the air. It was a giant black sword that was as heavy as a mountain. With a light swing, it could shatter heaven and earth. "Kid, do you dare to take one strike from me?" The first elder held the sword in his hand, and a violent energy exploded from his body. His sword energy soared into the sky, as if he didn't care about anyone. Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back. He said calmly, "You're no match for me." Arrogant, the first elder was enraged. He waved the giant black sword and slashed down. With one slash, the biting cold sword energy swept across heaven and earth. This strike was enough to cut down the sun, moon, and stars. The surrounding people all frantically retreated. The Thunder Emperor was shocked. This old man had become stronger again. The Imperial Sword Villa's swordsmen were truly terrifying. Everyone started to worry for Lin Xian. Would this guy be able to withstand it? The Fire Cloud Sword Emperor clenched his fists. To be honest, he wasn't confident either. He knew that Lin Xian was strong, but the giant Sword Emperor was even more terrifying. This strike made him despair. This was a true peerless swordsman. Could his master block it? Only Qin Chongqing was chuckling as he watched the show. He said in his heart, "Just you wait. You'll all be scared silly. And this giant Sword Emperor will definitely meet a tragic end." Chapter 61. In the face of such a terrifying sword, Lin Xian stood there without any intention of dodging. There was a loud boom. This sword slashed Lin Xian's body. "Great, go to hell, kid." The giant Sword Emperor revealed a cruel smile. However, in the next moment he was stunned. His pupils shrank. That was because he discovered that although his sword strike had caused sparks to fly, his opponent's body was completely unharmed. The opponent blocked the sword. How was this possible? The giant Sword Emperor couldn't believe it. What kind of physique was this? Even a great emperor of the same level wouldn't dare to face this sword head-on, right? He would definitely be injured. "Is this all you've got?" Lin Xian looked up at the opponent and shook his head slightly. "Weak, too weak. You are not qualified to make me use my sword." After saying that, he threw out a punch. Boom! This punch landed on the great elder's shoulder. Half of the great elder's shoulder cracked as if he was struck by lightning. His whole body flew out like a meteorite. With a boom, the mountain gate of the Imperial Sword Villa was shattered. Between heaven and earth, there were countless cracks and storms. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This scene was too sudden. In their opinion, the one who should lose should be Lin Xian. However, who would have thought that not only was Lin Xian not injured, but he also injured a great emperor with a light punch? How was this possible? The people of the Imperial Sword Villa were stunned. Nan Feiyu, Thunder Emperor, and the others were also shocked. Qin Chongqing clapped his hands and laughed. "See? The surprised expressions of these people are enough to make me happy for a few days. Everyone said that I was courting death. I think the Imperial Sword Villa is the one courting death. They even dared to challenge my big brother." Thinking of this, he rushed over and shouted, "Big brother is mighty. Big brother is powerful." "What, giant Sword Emperor? I think you are even worse than trash. My big brother hasn't used his sword yet, and you can't hold on. If my big brother uses his sword, I think your Sword Emperor can't resist. By the way, your Imperial Sword Villa is not qualified to use the title of Sword Emperor. Ask your villa master to give it up. Only my big brother is qualified to use it. Between heaven and earth. Only Qin Chongqing's voice sounded. The surrounding people were stunned. Was this guy out to court death again? The Imperial Sword Villa would definitely not forgive the other party. As for the Fire Cloud Sword Monarch, he was so excited that he started trembling. Master's strength is so terrifying. Master is the true, unparalleled expert. He was going to follow his master for the rest of his life. At the same time, he looked down on immortal Qin greatly. He disdained flattery and the actions of a villain. He wanted to use his true strength and talent to win his master's attention. Lin Xian, who was in front, glanced indifferently at Qin Chongqing. After that, he took out 2 heavenly treasures from his storage room and tossed them to the other party. Qin Chongqing immediately obtained it, and his eyes curved into crescents. Many thanks, big brother. What is this thing? What a powerful law aura. Why have I never seen it before? This isn't something from the land of ice and fire, right? Big brother, you're too amazing. Immortal Qin was crazily excited. The surrounding people also widened their eyes. Even the eyes of the martial monarchs flickered. Indeed, they had never seen anything like this before. At this moment, they even had a thought. Should they film a few lines as well? You. Who are you? The great elder in front stood up. Immortal energy surrounded his body, healing his broken body. His eyes were fixed on Lin Xian. When such a terrifying young martial monarch came from the land of ice and fire? How come they had never heard of him? Lin Xian walked forward with his hands behind his back and said indifferently, You don't have the right to know who I am. Let your sword emperor come. Also, hand over your sword villas, sword spirit. In your dreams. The great elder roared angrily. He held the giant sword again and charged over. I was careless just now. Now, I won't make such a mistake again. He roared crazily and attacked forcefully. Boom, boom. The two collided, and the sky collapsed, and the earth cracked. After a few punches, the great elder fell to the ground, and many cracks appeared on his body. Some places were directly pierced through, and many of the bones in his body were broken. The immortal energy on his body had dimmed. Lin Xian stepped on the other party's body with 1 foot. At the same time, he looked into the distance. He said indifferently, Come out, I can sense your aura. He is no match for me at all. If you don't come out, I will kill him. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. Even the first elder began to tremble. Was the other party going to kill him? Before, he didn't believe it. As a martial monarch, he would never die so easily. But now he didn't dare to try because the other party could easily crush him. The other party seemed to have the strength to kill him. He could only say, Please make a move, Sword Emperor. Humph. I didn't expect that a young man like you would appear in the land of ice and fire. A loud voice came from the Imperial Sword Villa. Then, countless sword chi flew over. They covered the sky and the earth, sweeping across the sky. Among them, a few sword chi directly enveloped the first elder and brought him back. Lin Xian didn't stop them. He just watched quietly like that. In the next moment, he saw countless sword chi turn into a divine bridge, standing between heaven and earth. And on that divine bridge, a figure actually walked out. It was a man in white. He stood there, surrounded by 3,000 sword lights, bobbing up and down around him. Each sword light seemed to be able to pierce through heaven and earth. Greetings, Sword Emperor. Jian Jingyun and the others from the Imperial Sword Villa quickly knelt down. The Sword Emperor stood between heaven and earth, his face extremely cold. He was very angry because the other party had ruined his plan. According to his plan, this time the great emperors and the top families and sects would all come. He would show them the mysterious power of the sword spirit and let them fight each other. He could sit back and reap the benefits. But now, a mysterious young man had appeared. With 1 sentence, he made the golden palm emperor kneel. With 1 punch, he injured the giant sword emperor. Even the fire wolf emperor, the vermilion bird emperor, and the others lowered their heads. This young man was too sharp, and no one dared to compete with him. In this way, how could he reap the benefits? Therefore, the sword emperor was very angry. He had to get rid of this kid first. Thinking of this, he looked at Lin Xian. Then his brows furrowed even tighter. This kid was so strange. The other party stood there and didn't seem to release any terrifying aura. One had to know that great emperors all had immortal qi and divine fire. Even in the land of destiny, these were the two paths that everyone had chosen. But the other party didn't have the power of immortal qi or divine fire. What was going on? Could it be that the other party wasn't a great emperor? But that was even more impossible. If he wasn't a great emperor, how could he injure a great emperor so easily? What kind of joke was this? Even 10-crown king might not have such power, right? Although 10-crown king was strong, he could only contend with a great emperor, which was already very heaven-defying. If 10-crown king wanted to kill a great emperor, it would be as difficult as ascending to the sky. It definitely wouldn't be so easy. The sword emperor couldn't understand. Lin Xian said indifferently, "You're the sword emperor? I'll give you a chance. Hand over the sword spirit. You can't keep it." How arrogant! The sword emperor was angry. The other party wanted to snatch the sword spirit as soon as he came up. Was he not putting him in his eyes at all? Chapter 61-62. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the sword emperor was completely enraged. His eyes burst out with a biting, cold, killing intent. "It seems that you really don't know what's good for you. Do you know? No one dares to challenge me in this land of ice and fire. Look at the Fire Wolf Emperor and the other great emperors. Do they dare to challenge me? They don't dare because I'm strong. Even in the land of the Ice Dragon and the Fire God Tree, they don't dare to fight me easily. I want to know what gives you the right. Because I'm strong, because my strength is above yours." Lin Xian's eyes also burst out with a biting cold light. "Take out your sword. I want to know, are you worthy of the title of Sword Emperor?" The Sword Emperor laughed. He seemed to laugh with disdain. The next moment he said coldly, "I haven't drawn my sword for 140 years. But that's fine. Today, I'll let you die under my sword." With a wave of his hand, the void split open. An ancient treasure sword appeared between heaven and earth. The Sword Emperor grabbed it. In the next moment, endless sword light burst out from his body. Terrifying sword Tao immortal qi floated around him. At this moment, everyone's weapons kept shaking, as if they were worshipping the king. Retreat! The surrounding people all retreated. For example, the Fire Wolf Emperor, the Vermilion Bird Emperor, and the others frowned. They wondered how this battle would go. Although they knew that Lin Xian was powerful, the Sword Emperor was too terrifying. The other party hadn't drawn his sword for 140 years. However, in these 140 years, the other party had defeated several great emperors with his bare hands. His strength had reached an unimaginable level. Now, this sword had been nurtured for 140 years. Once it was drawn, it would probably shock heaven and earth and make ghosts and gods cry. "Master!" In the distance, the Fire Cloud Sword Emperor's body was already pressed to the ground. He had no choice. In front of the Sword Emperor, he couldn't resist at all. At this moment, he was very worried for Lin Xian. On the other side, Qin Changsheng also dug a hole and burrowed into the ground. He muttered, "This guy should be able to withstand it." Everyone was guessing, but they felt that Lin Xian's chances of winning weren't high. On the Imperial Sword Villa's side, countless people laughed. "Great, the Sword Emperor is angry." The Sword Emperor was about to draw his sword. He would definitely be able to kill the other party in one move. Lin Xian also withdrew his smile as a mysterious glow blossomed in his eyes. One had to admit that the other party was indeed very strong. His sword Tao immortal qi was extremely terrifying. From the looks of it, he had met an interesting opponent. Very good. I'm finally not alone on the path of Sword Dao. What were experts most afraid of? Lonely it is lonely at the top. In fact, there was not even a single person capable of fighting him. Lin Xian rarely met a worthy opponent on the path of the sword. Now that he had met one, he naturally would not miss it. With a wave of his hand, the 9 suns divine fire gathered in his hand and turned into a sword aura. Boom! The power of the purest yang erupted as countless divine flames swept across the 9 heavens. The entire world began to shake. It was as if this flaming divine sword could split the heavens and earth apart. What terrifying power! The surrounding people were shocked again. This young man was also a swordsman, and it seemed that he was also a super swordsman. It was too unbelievable. The Fire Wolf Emperor, Vermilion Bird Emperor, and the others were also dumbfounded. Previously, they had seen Lin Xian at the fiery divine tree's territory. However, at that time, Lin Xian had used his powerful physique to intimidate them. Who would have thought that other than his powerful physique, he would be able to display such a peerless sword intent? How could this guy be so strong? The people of the Imperial Sword Villa could no longer laugh, especially Jian Jingyan, who was already trembling in fear. The first elder's face was also very dark. Even the Sword Emperor had put away his contemptuous smile. For the first time, a serious look appeared in his eyes. That's right, he had been careless. Previously, he had thought that he would be able to kill his opponent in one move. However, when his opponent attacked with his sword, he realized that this was not the case at all. This young man's strength was probably beyond his imagination. This was a powerful opponent. He put away his contempt, and in the next moment, his right hand grasped the ancient sword's hilt. He said, "So you are also a swordsman, and a top-notch one at that. I underestimated you before. Don't worry, I won't underestimate you again. I will use my full strength to defeat you in Sword Dao. Even if you use your full strength, you won't be my match." Lin Xian became even more arrogant at this moment. He was like a peerless sword god, his entire body emitting a bright light. Then he attacked with his sword. Boom! The 9 Yang divine sword pressed down from the sky, shattering the entire world. The power to split heaven and earth exploded. Facing this sword, the Sword Emperor did not retreat. Instead, his body swayed and turned into a bolt of lightning. He rushed over. When he arrived in front of Lin Xian, he still did not attack, because the 9 Yang divine sword above his head had already enveloped him. He roared angrily and his body swayed again. He dodged the sword and arrived beside Lin Xian. In the next moment, he drew his sword. An earth-shattering sound rang out like a clap of thunder. The ancient sword was unsheathed. This was just an ordinary drawing of the sword that could not be any more ordinary. However, its power was extremely extraordinary. It even caused the Fire Wolf Emperor and the others' minds to go blank. If they were to face this sword, they would probably be cut in half. This was the power that had been accumulated for 140 years. A sword shadow slashed towards Lin Xian. "Destroy!" The Sword Emperor roared. Its speed was so fast that it was unbelievable. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out. The sky and earth in front of them shattered, turning into countless black holes. Was he hit? Everyone raised their heads to look. The people of the Imperial Sword Villa clenched their fists. If they were hit, no matter how strong the other party was, they would be cut in half. Even if they didn't die, they would be seriously injured. However, the Sword Emperor's exclamation came from the black hole in front of them. How was this possible? You blocked it? He looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. The sword drawing just now had accumulated 140 years of power. It was enough to shock the world and make ghosts and gods cry. However, it did not hit the other party's body because another sword shadow appeared in the other party's hand. He blocked this sword. You're not bad. Your sword technique is one of the few top-notch swordsmen I've met. Lin Xian nodded and said. He was acknowledging the other party. However, the Sword Emperor was furious. He was much older than Feng Ku. He would not allow a young junior to be so arrogant. Go to hell! Sword Dao shocking thunder. Countless thunderbolts suddenly appeared on the ancient sword. Then it cracked with a loud bang. A violent and destructive force swept forward. Great, it was an immortal method. Zhuang Jian Jingyin, the first elder, and the others exclaimed, "The Sword Emperor even used an immortal method. The other party should be dead this time, right? I have a sword that can split the sky." In the shattering thunder, a long roar sounded. Then, everyone saw that the thunder clouds in the sky were split open, and a golden holy sword slashed down from the sky. Boom! This sword hit the ancient sword and knocked the Sword Emperor back. The Sword Emperor kept retreating, stepping on the void. His blood was boiling, and his face was full of disbelief. Above the ninth heaven, Lin Xian stepped on the 8 barren lands. He pointed his sword down and said, "Is this all you've got?" "Not enough." Lin Xian shook his head. "I haven't used my real sword technique yet. Are you going to be defeated? Come again." After that, he slashed down with his sword. Chapter 61-63. You will regret this. The Sword Monarch snorted. He was furious. Was the other party looking down on him? Although he didn't have the upper hand in the previous 2 strikes. But so what? He also had a peerless sword technique that he hadn't used yet. Sword technique, Mountain River Sword. He waved his ancient sword again, and it turned into mountains and rivers. They overlapped and pressed down like thousands of mountains and rivers. This was a vast sword intent. Even if a great emperor was enveloped in it, he would be crushed by this huge pressure. Good! This is worthy of the title of Sword Monarch. Lin Xian laughed heartily as he sensed the immense might of the sword. He didn't dodge. Instead, he took the initiative to enter the mountains and rivers. His body also began to shake violently. Below, Nanfeiyu and the other great emperors were stunned. Others couldn't dodge this move in time, but he took the initiative to enter. How confident was he? The Sword Monarch snorted. He activated the Mountain River Sword and pressed down. This time, he must definitely suppress the other party. Looking at the mountains and rivers formed by the sword chi, Lin Xian snorted. In the next moment, he waved the sword in his hand again. Heaven-defying sword technique, Mountain River Sword. The sword in the air flashed, and the mountains and rivers were cut in half like a piece of paper. All kinds of heaven and earth avatars collapsed, and a terrifying power swept around. The few great emperors took their people and retreated frantically. The front was already in ruins. Was the immortal technique broken? This guy was too strong. The Sword Monarch might have to bow down to him. Lei Dongdi shook his head and sighed. Nanfeiyu and the others were also in a daze. They didn't dare to imagine that the Sword Monarch would be defeated. The Sword Monarch was really the uncrowned king in this space. It seemed that he hadn't been defeated before. While the great emperors were talking, Lin Xian's second strike had already arrived. The first strike shattered the mountains and rivers. The second strike split heaven and earth. The sword in the air slashed towards the Sword Monarch. This time, the Sword Monarch didn't dare to be careless. He kept dodging and even took the initiative to activate his defense. He waved the ancient sword in his hand, and a 3-foot sword light surrounded him, forming a huge sword screen. Boom, boom, boom. The sword that could split heaven and earth slashed on the sword screen, causing a loud explosion. This time, the sword screen didn't shatter immediately. Instead, it lasted for a while. Only when it was covered with cracks did it shatter. The Sword Emperor took this opportunity to leave. Lin Xian was surprised. What a strong sword intent. The Sword Emperor was much stronger than expected in terms of sword Dao. Lin Xian did not continue to attack. Instead, he said, "It's not easy for you to cultivate to this level. Furthermore, one had to accept their fate in the land of destiny. Once one was defeated, it would be difficult for them to make a comeback. Indeed, in the outside world, the great emperor had thousands of possibilities. However, things were different in the land of destiny. I will not be defeated. The sword emperor roared and attacked again. Take my strongest attack. I learned this move a few years ago, but I've never used it before. Originally, I thought that I would only be able to use this move in extremely dangerous forbidden lands. I never thought that I would have to use it on you today. However, you should be proud of yourself. The sword emperor's aura changed again. The ancient sword in his hand swayed nonstop, emitting a dazzling sword light. Then he continued to step in the air. After taking the first step, he reached a certain height. The ancient sword in his hand was shining like the sun, stepping on the sky and killing gods. The name of this move was extremely arrogant. It was said that it could even kill gods. Everyone looked up. The weak ones knelt down and surrendered. Even the martial monarchs began to tremble. They felt a sense of horror, a horror that came from the depths of their souls. All of this seemed to be able to kill them. The first elder looked up at the sky with excitement in his eyes. He did it. He actually mastered the legendary stepping on the sky and killing gods. Jian Jingyun and the other disciples on the side swallowed their saliva. Was this the legendary sword technique? They didn't dare to imagine. Even Lin Xian looked up with a touch of seriousness in his eyes. This move was indeed very powerful. It even threatened him. Stepping on the sky and killing gods? Lin Xian's eyes also showed a touch of coldness. I'm afraid you won't be able to kill it. The sword emperor in the sky was extremely focused. He held the ancient sword with both hands and swung it down fiercely. Between heaven and earth, countless sword qi danced as if it had turned into a sword Tao world. As the sword slashed down, the sky shattered and the earth turned into countless black holes. Heaven-defying sword technique. I am the sword. The sword qi in Lin Xian's hand disappeared. He directly rushed over. At this moment, his body was shining brightly as if he had turned into a peerless divine sword. He pierced through heaven and earth, straight into the clouds, and charged towards the ancient sword in the sky. Everyone's expression changed. This was the strongest move. It was about to determine the winner. The great emperors widened their eyes. They couldn't bear to miss any detail. With a boom, the two sides collided. Countless runes flashed in all directions. Between heaven and earth, there were tens of thousands of cracks shaking. This move seemed to have turned into eternity. Everyone's eyes lit up. The great emperors were so dazzled that their eyes bled. They didn't dare to look anymore. How was this possible? The two of them could unleash such powerful sword intent. Everyone could only wait. After an unknown period of time, everyone heard a cracking sound coming from the void. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Something had broken. What was it? Whoosh! Boom! Then, in the sky full of white light, a black figure descended from the sky and landed on the ground at an extremely fast speed. With a clang, the ground was penetrated. The great emperors hurriedly looked over. Then they exclaimed, "Broken sword!" This seemed to be the sword emperor's ancient sword. Was it broken? The first elder of the imperial sword villa also roared crazily. This was impossible. How could the sword emperor's ancient sword be broken? That was an extremely terrifying extreme Tao weapon. The sword emperor had been looking for the metal to forge it for 3,000 years. This long sword had followed the sword emperor for 10,000 years. It was definitely a divine weapon. However, at this moment it was broken. Boom, boom. In the sky, there was another earth-shattering sound. Then the two figures separated. Lin Xian stood there. His body was shining brightly. He wasn't injured at all. On the other hand, the sword emperor was half kneeling in the void. He held the broken sword in his hand. His hair was disheveled, and blood kept dripping from the corner of his mouth. Every drop of blood could shatter eternity. You lost, Lin Xian said indifferently. Lost. A trace of confusion appeared in the Sword Emperor's eyes. He was actually defeated. Moreover, he was defeated in the Sword Tao. He had lived for tens of thousands of years. He didn't expect that he would be defeated in the hands of a young man. Once upon a time, he traveled the world with his sword and defeated countless heaven's favorites with his sword alone. In the end, he entered the Great Emperor realm with the supreme Sword Tao. After entering the Great Emperor realm, he was still victorious. Many great emperors were defeated by his ancient sword. He had created so many glories and legends in his life. However, at this moment, it seemed that everything had turned into ashes. Even the ancient sword that had followed him for 10,000 years had been broken into two. I hate! The Sword Emperor's eyes suddenly burst out with monstrous, killing intent. He stood up and roared to the sky. My sword is broken, but I haven't lost yet. Sword Spirit, come out. Chapter 61-64. With an angry roar, a large amount of sword chi suddenly surged out from the Imperial Sword Villa. Then, a sword shadow rushed over like a peerless immortal light. Everyone felt their scalps go numb. Their souls seemed to be about to be extinguished. What was this? The few great emperors were also facing a great enemy. They looked carefully and saw that beside the Sword Emperor, an illusory sword shadow had already appeared. It surrounded him and danced. Sword Spirit, someone exclaimed. The few great emperors also stared ahead. This time, they came for the Sword Spirit. Now that the Sword Spirit had appeared, no one dared to act rashly. Previously, it might have been possible for them to join forces to fight against the Sword Emperor. But now, another young sword god had appeared and defeated the Sword Emperor. And the other party's goal was also the Sword Spirit. At this moment, those great emperors didn't dare to. If they offended this young sword god, they would probably end up in a miserable state. Of course, there were also people whose eyes flickered. They thought that since there was a fierce battle ahead, let them fight. Perhaps in the end, both sides would suffer. In that case, they would have a chance. Lin Xian also looked ahead and looked at the illusory sword shadow. He was surprised. Was this the Sword Spirit? He thought of the dragon's sword spirit. However, at this moment, the dragon's sword spirit was not in his hands, but in the hands of the mysterious powerhouse, Xian Yuan. Back then, when he was confirming his Tao, a peerless battle occurred. Xian Yuan came out. The shadows of the heaven-devouring Great Emperor and Celestial Emperor, ye also appeared one after another. The dragon sword went to the 9 heavens and fought with the other party. And before the battle ended, Lin Xian was teleported to the land of destiny. He didn't bring the dragon's sword spirit with him. However, he wasn't worried. Once he returned to the myriad worlds, the dragon's sword spirit would return to his side. Now, even without the great dragon sword soul, Lin Xian's body was filled with an invincible power. The Sword Emperor's eyes once again regained his confidence. He had lost, but so what? He still had the sword spirit. Now, with the power of this top sword spirit, he could turn defeat into victory. One failure might allow him to experience a different life. This failure would turn into his eternal motivation. Only the one who had the last laugh would be considered a success. The Sword Monarch felt that he was the one who had the last laugh. With a wave of his hand, the sword spirit revolved around his hand. The battle wasn't over yet. After saying that, he slashed out with his sword. Buzz! Lin Xian's body emitted tens of thousands of sword energies. 10,000 swords returned to sect. He was like the sword god of the 9th heaven. The sword chi on his body blocked the sword spirit's attack. At the same time, a trace of reincarnation power was activated in his eyes. Your sword spirit is very strange. I can actually sense a trace of the power of reincarnation. Could it be that the land of destiny had the power of reincarnation? Thinking of this, Lin Xian was a little excited. It should be known that although he could summon the phantom of the Samsara sword, he could not summon it. However, it was said that the body of the Samsara sword had been shattered. There was a palm-sized fragment in his hand. It was possible that there were other fragments in this fated place, and this sword spirit should be the key. Thinking of this, a cold light erupted from his eyes. He had to obtain the sword spirit. The sword emperor roared furiously, soul severing with a single strike. He attacked forcefully. He wanted to destroy the other party's soul and then take control of this body. Boom! The 6 paths of reincarnation. Lin Xian's eyes suddenly turned into the 6 paths of reincarnation world, standing in the air. He created this sword spirit. Then the phantom of the Samsara sword flew out from the 6 paths of reincarnation. It collided with the sword spirit. With a clang, the two burst into a bright light. The Samsara sword phantom retreated. As for the sword spirit, it was also sent flying. The light on its body instantly dimmed. At the same time, the sword spirit seemed to have been stimulated by something and suddenly let out a sharp sound. Heaven and earth were broken in an instant. The souls of the people around were shattered. The few great emperors were also bleeding from their ears. Damn it, was this guy crazy? Even the sword emperor's face was pale, and his blood was boiling. His soul was also shaking violently. He tried to control the sword spirit, but he found that he couldn't control it. In the next moment, the sword spirit left his body and rushed forward. Indeed, the sword spirit flew over, and its target was Lin Xian's eyes. To be exact, it was that Rinnegan. He killed his way out. Lin Xian's Rinnegan erupted with a shocking light. The 6 paths of reincarnation, like a shield, blocked the opponent. At the same time, he said coldly, "It seems that you are indeed related to the power of reincarnation." After that, he reached out his big hand and grabbed the sword spirit. The sword spirit frantically resisted, and a peerless crisis broke out. At this moment, his aura was so strong that even the sword emperor was sent flying. Several cracks appeared on the sword emperor's body. He was stunned. The sword spirit had such strength? To be honest, he really didn't know. Every few hundred or thousand years, a sword spirit would appear in their imperial sword villa. The reason was that there were countless spirit veins under the imperial sword villa, and these spirit veins seemed to be related to sword chi. Therefore, a sword spirit could be produced every 500 years. These sword spirits were regarded as treasures. Of course, there were some more peculiar ones, such as 1,000-year-old sword spirits. And this sword spirit in front of him was 10,000 years old. 10,000 years ago, the sword emperor discovered the existence of the other party. However, the other party's aura was still very weak at that time. The sword emperor had been secretly observing and silently cultivating. After 10,000 years, this sword spirit finally appeared. After the other party came out, the sword emperor was ecstatic. Later, he found that this sword spirit could destroy the soul and control the body. He had a previous plan. However, he never thought that this sword spirit could actually release a power beyond his imagination. This power was enough to kill him. Thinking of this, he felt a burst of fear. Even if there was no young man in front of him, one day the sword spirit would suddenly attack him. Would he be able to resist it? Thinking of this, he was stunned. At the same time, the battle ahead became even more intense. The sword spirit rushed madly towards Lin Xian, as if he wanted to seize the Rinnegan. Lin Xian, on the other hand, sneered again and again. On one hand, he used the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation to resist the other party. On the other hand, his big hand kept patting on the sword spirit. Each hit made the sword spirit shake and tremble. Below, the Fire Wolf Emperor, Nanfeiyu, and the others were also stunned. They did not expect that the final scene would be like this. The final battle was not between the Sword Emperor and Lin Xian, but the Sword Spirit. Thunder Emperor said, "Do you want to join forces?" At this time, the battle was already very terrifying. The Sword Emperor was injured, and Lin Xian had been fighting for so long. so he should not have much strength left. If they suddenly joined forces, they might really be able to benefit from it. However, Nan Feiyu said, "Let's wait a little longer." She did not dare to make a move now. Humph! Lin Xian's cold snort came from between heaven and earth. In the next moment, he made a move. He used some immortal power. With a bang, he directly hit the sword spirit. As if struck by lightning, the sword spirit was instantly sent flying and landed in the mountain range in the distance. All of a sudden, the mountain range split apart and turned into a black hole. The sword spirit let out a cry of horror, and his power quickly dimmed. Everyone was stunned. The Sword Emperor could not believe it. On the other hand, Nan Feiyu and Leidong Emperor's expressions changed drastically. They were so scared that they knelt on the ground. Why was that power so familiar? Wasn't it the power that killed the Golden Palm Emperor? Chapter 61-65. Lin Xian struck out with the power of an immortal. Immediately, the sword spirit was suppressed and could no longer resist. The surrounding people were shocked. Did he succeed? This young sword god actually succeeded. The people of the Imperial Sword Villa went crazy. The Sword Emperor also couldn't believe it. As for Nan Feiyu and Lei Dong, they were stunned like statues. They were now sure that the young man in front of them was the one who killed the Golden Palm Emperor. At the thought of this possibility, their scalps went numb. The previous matter of joining forces and reaping the benefits of the fishermen had long been thrown to the back of their minds. What a joke! Even if they were beaten to death, they wouldn't dare to make a move again. Lin Xian ignored the thoughts of the others and walked towards the sword spirit. The Sword Emperor next to him roared. He activated the myriad sword array. He roared crazily and rushed back. He came to the center of the Imperial Sword Villa. The spiritual vein array around the Imperial Sword Villa all rose into the air and surrounded him. Soon after, the enormous sword soared into the sky, surrounded by countless smaller sword auras. This was the myriad sword array. "I won't give you the sword spirit." The Sword Emperor roared to the sky. Then the myriad sword array fell crazily. At this time, there was still blood at the corner of Lin Xian's mouth. This was caused by the instability of the immortal power. The surrounding people were stunned. Lin Xian was injured. Could he resist it? Lin Xian was also angry. He snorted and took out the immortal slaying sword. With a slash of the sword, the myriad sword array was shattered, and a sword mark cut through the void. With a boom, the Sword Emperor was split in half. Not only that, the entire Imperial Sword Villa was divided into two, and a bottomless abyss appeared in the middle. Boom! 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 A violent explosion sounded, and everyone was stunned. Under this sword, countless powerhouses of the Imperial Sword Villa died. Even the Sword Emperor was seriously injured. The two halves of his body fell to the ground, trembling nonstop. How terrifying! The other party actually has such power. What's going on with that sword? Why does it make my hair stand on end? This isn't an ordinary extreme weapon, right? No, this is beyond extreme weapons. The first elder, Jian Jingyan, and the others fell to their knees in fear. Lin Xian held the banishing immortal sword and stared at the sword spirit. Then he opened his rinnegan. In the next moment, a piercingly cold light erupted from his eyes. You are indeed related to the power of reincarnation. While suppressing the sword spirit, Lin Xian turned to look at the Sword Emperor. At this moment, the two halves of the Sword Monarch's body had already healed. However, he was heavily injured and his aura was extremely weak. Feeling Lin Xian's gaze, he was so scared that he kept retreating. He had long since lost the calm of an expert. Lin Xian asked in a low voice, "Where did you get this sword spirit?" At this moment, the Sword Monarch didn't dare to resist anymore and could only say obediently, "Our Imperial Sword Villa can produce a sword spirit every once in a while. This is produced from a spirit vein under the Imperial Sword Villa. He pointed downward. Lin Xian flew over and looked down. Previously, he had destroyed many spiritual veins with a single slash. At this moment, the aura below was somewhat chaotic. The sword monarch next to him said, "May I ask where you came from? My title of sword monarch has been lost to you. From now on, you are the new sword monarch." Hearing this, the eyes of countless disciples of the imperial sword villa dimmed. Sword monarch was such a supreme honor, but now he had to give it to someone else? This was more than a slap in the face. Even the sword monarch was unwilling. But the other party was too strong, so he had nothing to say. However, Lin Xian shook his head. "Sword monarch, I don't need this title because my goal is the sword god." Sword god. The sword monarch was stunned after hearing this. That was an unattainable realm. He probably had no hope of reaching it in his life. But the young man in front of him said it so firmly. Could it be that he could really become a god? Lin Xian ignored him. He had already noticed the changes below, so he slashed out again. Suddenly, another big crack appeared. Countless palaces in the entire imperial sword villa collapsed. Lin Xian, on the other hand, had already rushed downwards. Below, there was a huge spiritual vein. At this moment, it had been cut off by Lin Xian. Lin Xian, on the other hand, rushed into the spirit vein and continuously attacked. The imperial sword villa was torn apart and turned into ruins. All the other disciples had fled. The first elder looked at the sword monarch and said, "Sword monarch, our foundation is gone. Our sect is destroyed." He cried. The sword monarch said, "Shut up. It's already a blessing that you're still alive. Don't offend the young sword god. Later, apologize to him with me." What was the imperial sword villa? What did it mean to understand? Staying alive was the most important thing. Below, Lin Xian cut open the spiritual vein and finally saw a fragment. The fragment was covered in moss and was dim. However, Lin Xian's Rinnegan violently jumped. Not only that, Lin Xian waved his hand and took out the fragment of the Samsara sword. When the fragment came out, the dim and lightless fragment suddenly started shaking. Then it burst out with endless light. The power of Samsara was displayed, as if it had formed a world of its own. What was this? The surrounding people were all stunned. The sword monarch and the others also gasped. There was such a treasure under the imperial sword villa, and they didn't know about it. The sword monarch wanted to slap himself. If he had found such a treasure earlier, he wouldn't have ended up like this. If he had given it to the Fane of Destiny, he might have changed his fate. He might even have a chance to break through to the earth immortal realm. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. However, it was useless. Now he could only watch. Lin Xian waved his hand and grabbed the fragment of the Samsara sword. Then the corners of his mouth raised. Great! The second fragment of the Samsara sword. This way, the power of the Rinnegan would be stronger. The phantom of the Samsara sword he summoned would be more powerful. This trip to the land of destiny was not in vain. After putting away the two fragments, Lin Xian rose into the air and arrived in the sky. The sword monarch and the others hurriedly cupped their fists and said, "Please forgive us for being rude to you before." Lin Xian said, "It's just a sword competition. I don't blame you." Then he asked, "How do I summon the messenger?" The sword monarch was stunned. Then he understood that the other party was talking about the messenger of destiny. "Young master, I can help you summon it." The sword monarch took out a token and carefully held it in his hand. Then he released immortal chi. Suddenly, the token emitted a ray of light, rushed into the air and disappeared. The sword monarch said, "I've already informed the messenger of destiny. He will definitely come within a day." "Within a day? Okay, I'll wait." Lin Xian nodded. The surrounding people were also quiet. At this moment, they looked at Lin Xian with awe in their eyes. Lin Xian glanced at the broken ground and then said, "I got a lot of things from you. Moreover, Your sect was destroyed. Fine, I'll give you some advice on sword techniques as a way to make up for it. Under other circumstances, if a young man said that he wanted to teach the sword monarch sword techniques, the surrounding people would probably laugh to death. But now no one dared to laugh. In fact, their faces were full of envy, because Lin Xian's strength was too strong. His sword techniques were something they looked up to. After hearing this, the sword monarch's eyes lit up. "Thank you, young master." Lin Xian said, "Your sword techniques are very strong and your sword Dao is very terrifying, but you lack something." Chapter 61-66. Lin Xian's words puzzled everyone. What did he lack? Did the Sword Emperor lack anything? Even the Sword Emperor was at a loss. Lin Xian said lack of hope. These words were said to the Sword Emperor, but in fact it was also said to everyone else. During this period of time, Lin Xian had seen many great emperors in the land of destiny. However, he found that these great emperors all lacked hope. In fact, there was nothing they could do. This was the land of destiny. Fate was determined by the heavens. It was a very sad thing to know one's own fate. Therefore, these people had a slim chance and naturally had no hope. However, Lin Xian was different. Lin Xian came from thousands of worlds, and he had seen too many possibilities. For example, the Yi family's celestial emperor, who could not cultivate, swept through thousands of worlds. There were also some weak, demonic beasts, such as a green lotus, who was extremely humble at first, but in the end also grew into an eternal giant. There were also warriors who were defeated all the way, but in the end they also became strong and powerful. These people were all full of hope. However, the people in the land of destiny did not. The Sword Emperor was stunned after hearing this. The others also seemed to be enlightened. Hope? It was easier said than done. The great emperors all smiled bitterly. Although they couldn't see their own fate clearly, they could guess it. Their martial arts path had probably reached the end. It was as difficult as ascending to the sky to improve. Lin Xian shook his head and continued, "I know that each of you has your own fate. However, you can't accept your fate so easily. At least you have hope. Isn't the Fane of Destiny able to change your fate? Back then, when I didn't know about the Fane of Destiny, I dared to go against the heavens. I walked a path that no one has ever walked before. Why can't you do it?" After speaking, Lin Xian did not speak anymore. He walked to the side and waited silently. The great emperors were deep in thought. After a while, the Sword Emperor bowed deeply to Lin Xian. "Thank you for your guidance." Lin Xian nodded and did not say anything. He saw all these people's expressions. It was probably very difficult for these people to have hope. That would depend on their own luck. While Lin Xian was waiting in an extremely mysterious place in the land of destiny, Lin Xian was still waiting. There was a godlike palace here. This place was the Fortune Shrine. Not many great emperors had been here before, let alone ordinary people. The Temple of Fortune was extremely mysterious. It was like a temple in legends. Among them, on one of the islands in the sky, there was a huge compass flickering. The compass was all-encompassing and seemed to have countless rays of light, just like the stars in the heavens. They had their own trajectories. This compass was called the Destiny Compass. The points of light on it were not stars, but each person's life providence. It was destined. In other words, these people had to follow their own paths and not make the slightest mistake. Unless someone could come here and accept the heaven-defying change of fate. A figure stood in front of the Destiny Compass. This figure was abnormally mysterious. He frowned as he looked at the Destiny Compass. The Destiny Compass had changed. A streak of starlight streaked across the compass like a shooting star. At this moment, an old man came from behind. This old man was too old. Who knew how many tens of thousands of years he had lived? He was leaning on a walking stick. When he saw the shooting star, the walking stick fell to the ground. He exclaimed, defiant of fate. Someone had actually used his own strength to change his own fate. It was unbelievable. After all, other than the fortune shrine, no one else had this kind of power. First Elder, you're here, the figure in front of him said lightly. The voice was emotionless, but it was very pleasant to the ears. It turned out that the person standing in front of him was a woman. The white-haired old man called the First Elder walked to the front and said, "Goddess, who is this person?" The woman in front of him was the goddess of the fortune shrine. Hearing the First Elder's words, she opened her red lips and said, "He should be someone outside the land of destiny." Someone from the heavens? The First Elder was shocked. Someone else had come. It seemed that the outside world had ushered in a golden age. A golden age? The goddess shook her head. For some people it was a golden age, but for others it was the end of the world. That was indeed the case. The top masters and supreme geniuses thought it was an opportunity. They could go to other mysterious places to find all kinds of lost treasures and heavenly materials. However, for some ordinary martial artists it was a disaster. The arrival of the deity ground, the appearance of the nirvana realm, the opening of hell, and the arrival of the netherworld. This caused countless experts to sweep across the area. Those who followed would prosper, and those who resisted would die. Anyone who resisted would die immediately. Who knew how many creatures had turned into bones in this battle? The goddess in front of him said, "It's not the first time someone from the heavens has come. However, this person is a bit strange. His life providence was extremely unstable and was already showing signs of shattering. In other words, he broke through the previous heaven-defying fate, but he didn't completely form a new fate. In other words, he didn't succeed in changing his fate. He will definitely come to us." The First Elder behind her said, "Then we'll just wait. With his strength, it won't be long before he comes." The goddess nodded. "No, his fate is very strange. Have you seen someone who can change fate with his own strength? He must have some incredible power on him. So, I want to see him immediately. To be honest, I'm also very curious. What kind of person has come from the outside?" The First Elder began to send a voice transmission to the messenger of fate. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. A figure appeared in the sky. This figure seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Before this, the great emperor didn't feel anything. Lin Xian seemed to have sensed something. There was a trace of light in his eyes. The next moment, he stood up and looked up at the sky. There was a young figure in the sky. He was wearing an ancient robe. Just like that, he stood quietly in the void, as if he was the ruler of the world looking down. The sword monarch also stood up and said, "Lin Gongzi, this is the messenger of fate." The others looked at him curiously. Was this the messenger of fate? To be honest, this was the first time they had seen him because they weren't qualified at all. This time, if it weren't for Lin Xian, they probably wouldn't have seen him in their lives. The messenger of fate stood in the air expressionlessly. He said in a deep voice, "Sword monarch, you summoned me, but you found the qualification to change fate." Facing the messenger of fate, the sword monarch didn't dare to be careless. Although he was high and mighty before, he was incomparably respectful at this moment. He cupped his fists and said, "Messenger, this time it's not me, but Lin Gongzi. He wants to go to the Temple of Fate to change fate." "You?" The messenger of fate was surprised and looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian waved his hand and took out the sword spirit from before. He said, "Yes, I want to go to the Temple of Fate to change fate." When he saw the sword spirit, the messenger of fate was stunned. Good stuff. He could naturally feel that it was extraordinary. The others also exclaimed, "You want to exchange this sword spirit for it?" It was incredible. Even the sword monarch felt a burst of heartache. This sword spirit had magical power. Lin Xian didn't care. The sword spirit was condensed from the fragments of the samsara sword. Now he could get the fragments of the samsara sword. This sword spirit was not important at all. Chapter 61-67. The messenger of fate was also surprised. Sword spirit, wasn't this something unique to the Imperial Sword Villa? Moreover, looking at how precious this spirit artifact was, why didn't the Sword Emperor take it out? Instead, he gave it to the other party. The Sword Emperor was covered in injuries, and the Imperial Sword Villa was torn apart. Needless to say, a top-level battle had just happened, and the Sword Emperor had lost. The kid in front of him had won. It was really surprising. A top genius had actually appeared in the land of ice and fire. The messenger of fate was surprised and looked at Lin Xian. Perhaps this kid could really change his fate in the future. His attitude towards Lin Xian was much better. After all, everyone who could change their fate was extremely rare and precious. At the same time, they were extremely powerful people. He said, "Sword Spirit, you are indeed qualified to go to the Temple of Fate. However, let me say it in advance. You can only change your luck, not your fate." "Can't change fate?" Lin Xian frowned. "Why?" The messenger of fate explained. "Although your sword spirit is precious, the price you have to pay to change your fate is too great. One sword spirit is not enough. What are the conditions? Everyone is different. Why don't you come back to the Temple of Fate with me and test it? When the time comes, you will know." "All right." Lin Xian nodded. He had to go to the Temple of Fate anyway. He was still very curious about this place. What kind of power could change someone's fate? The messenger of fate was about to leave, but in the next moment he was stunned. He stopped in midair, and his expression became extremely respectful, because he heard the voice transmission of the great elder of the Temple of Fate. The next moment he took a deep breath, and his eyes became sharp. He said, "Let's hurry up and speed up, because I have other things to do." "Other things?" Lin Xian was stunned. The Sword Emperor and the others were also at a loss. The messenger of fate said, "There's no harm in telling you, because I have received an order from the temple to find a person with all my strength. During this period of time, a strange person may appear. He is not the same as our land of fate. If someone claims to be from the myriad worlds, tell me immediately. Do you understand?" The messenger of fate looked at the Sword Emperor. After all, the Sword Emperor was very powerful in the land of ice and fire. With the other party's help, it would save him a lot of trouble. From the myriad worlds, the Sword Arch was at a loss. Although he didn't quite understand what it meant, he didn't know what it meant. However, he still cupped his fists and said, "Don't worry, I will do my best to search." Lin Xian was stunned when he heard this. He came from the myriad realms? That was him. As far as he knew, it was very difficult for people from the outside world to come to the land of destiny. During this period of time, he seemed to be the only person in the entire universe who could come to the land of destiny. However, he did not immediately reveal his identity. Who knew why the Fane of Fortune was looking for him? According to what he had learned recently, it was almost impossible to go to the Fortune Shrine. But now, the other party was actually taking the initiative. There must be something fishy going on. Lin Xian was silent. He silently followed the messenger of fate, then flew up into the air and left. After he disappeared, the Sword Monarch said loudly, "All disciples of the Imperial Sword Villa, listen to my order. Find me a person from all the realms. Do you understand? Whoever finds him, I will reward him handsomely. I will teach him my thunderclap, sword technique." All the disciples' eyes turned red. The thunderclap sword technique was a peerless immortal technique created by the Sword Monarch. If they could learn it, it would definitely increase their strength greatly. More importantly, they might become the successor of the Sword Monarch. Everyone flew desperately into the distance and began to search. The Fire Wolf Emperor, the Ant Emperor, the Vermilion Bird Emperor, and the others also returned. They also wanted their own people to search. The messenger of fate cared so much about this matter. Once they found him, it would be a great merit. Maybe they could change their fate. These people moved quickly. Lin Xian saw this and shook his head slightly. He was afraid that these people would not be able to find him, because he had already gone to the fortune shrine. He did not care about what was happening below. Lin Xian sped up. When they reached the sky, the messenger of fate waved his hand and took out a sword. The two of them boarded the spirit boat. The spirit boat activated the array formation and instantly teleported away. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Xian realized that there was no longer a spatial passage around them. Instead, what appeared was a palace from the myths and legends. What a terrifying spirit boat! I can't sense any direction in the entire space. No wonder the fortune shrine was so mysterious. Even his Rinnegan couldn't sense the direction of this teleportation, let alone others. Come over and follow me. Don't go anywhere else, and don't use your soul to probe me. There are many powerful formations in the fortune shrine. Once you are attacked by the formation, your body and soul will be destroyed. I can't save you. Do you understand? The messenger of fate said coldly. He didn't think that Lin Xian was surprised, because he had brought some emperor-level powerhouses with him before. These people didn't dare to probe casually. Lin Xian nodded and followed. He didn't probe his soul out, but still curiously observed. He discovered that there were indeed some terrifying formations here. Moreover, there was a mysterious power. Although this power was dormant, Lin Xian could feel it and was a little shocked. The fortune shrine, in addition to being able to change fate, was also called a shrine. Was it because there were land immortals here? How many of them were there? Had the people from the land of destiny ever left? Would they participate in the battle between the Nirvana realm and the divine realm? He didn't know either. The entire fortune shrine was made up of floating islands. These days the salary was very high. On each island there were thousands of rays of light, thousands of rainbows, and countless palaces. The messenger of fate brought Lin Xian to the third sky island. After landing, there weren't many palaces on the island, but there were many black stones. The messenger of fate explained, "These are life stones, which can test your fate. According to your fate, the price you have to pay to change your fate is different. Now let's test your fate. After you finish the test, I will take you to another island, where you can change your luck." Just as Lin Xian was about to test his fate, on the seventh sky island, the goddess frowned. "Is he here?" This time, the messenger of fate was very efficient. The great elder also said, "Why can you come here directly to the third island? It's more accurate to test your fate here." "Forget it, I'll bring him here." The great elder's figure flickered, and he went to the third island. On the third island, Lin Xian came to the black life stone and was about to test it. At this moment, a figure appeared in the air. It was an old man, and his aura was even more powerful and unfathomable. The messenger of fate hurriedly bowed. "Greetings, great elder." He knelt down on one knee, and his expression was extremely respectful. At the same time, he was extremely shocked. Why is the great elder here? After all, he was just a messenger, and normally he wasn't qualified to see the great elder. The great elder smiled and said, "Shichi, you did well this time. Go and get a portion of the water of destiny." The messenger of fate was stunned. His name was Tang Shichi. What did he do? He just got a portion of the water of destiny. The water of destiny was so precious that he could only get a bottle every 100 years. But now he was given a bottle. "This is what you deserve. I asked you to bring the person from the myriad worlds here. I didn't expect you to bring him here so soon." The goddess was very satisfied. The person from the myriad worlds didn't come. Tang Shichi was stunned. He just brought a young man who wanted to change his fate. Wait. Suddenly he was stunned and looked at Lin Xian with a face full of shock. Could it be that this kid came from the myriad realms? No way. What a coincidence. Chapter 61-68. Lin Xian looked at the first elder and said, I am indeed from all the realms. But how do you know? The first elder smiled. Your fate is very special. I sensed it as soon as you came. Come with me. The goddess is waiting for you. Goddess? Hearing this, the messenger was very envious because he hadn't seen the goddess yet. Not everyone was qualified to see the goddess. He didn't expect that this kid could see the goddess as soon as he arrived. The goddess of the Fane of Destiny? Lin Xian was surprised. He was even more curious now. Why was she looking for him? He nodded and said, Senior, please. The first elder took Lin Xian and left the sky, flying directly to the 7th island. On the 7th island, there was the Destiny Compass. When Lin Xian arrived, he felt the aura here was even more mysterious and strange. You are finally here. In front of him, the goddess of destiny turned around and looked at Lin Xian. She wore a veil, and her eyes were as deep as the stars, as if she could control the fate of others. You are the goddess of destiny. What do you want from me? Lin Xian asked. The goddess of destiny walked over and circled Lin Xian. Then she nodded and said, Your fate has indeed been broken. However, a new fate hasn't been formed. You are here to change your fate, right? That's right. Lin Xian said, I am here to change my fate. Tell me your conditions. There is no hurry. The goddess said, I have to see you first. What's so special about you? Special? Lin Xian was surprised and said, Of course I'm special. The first elder also walked over and said, You are the first person I have seen who broke through the fate on his own. Can't you do it? Lin Xian was surprised. Isn't the Fane of Destiny helping others change their fate? However, the goddess said, We can help others change their fate, but when it comes to ourselves, we can't change our fate. Lin Xian was stunned again. It seemed that the fortune shrine wasn't omnipotent. Great Elder said, So, do you know how special you are? If your fate is changed by us, that's fine, because you're not the first. However, you didn't use the power of the Shrine of Destiny. You broke through the birth chart on your own. Although it didn't completely change fate, it was enough to create a new world. So, we are curious. How did you do it? Lin Xian thought for a moment and said, If I tell you, can you help me change my fate? The goddess shook her head. I can't. The price of changing your fate is too high. Originally, we didn't have to help you change your fate. However, if you tell me your secret, and I'm interested, I might be able to convince the Fortune Shrine to help you change your fate. Well, it wasn't really a secret. Lin Xian said, I have merged the Divine Tao and the Immortal Tao into one. I walk the Tao of Immortals. What? You walked the Tao of Immortals, and you succeeded, the Great Elder exclaimed. Even the Goddess of Fate was shocked. Can I take a look at it? She didn't believe it either. Lin Xian stretched out his hand and released the power of Immortals. Suddenly, the whole world shook violently. The meteor on the Destiny Compass seemed to glow even more resplendently. Some people of the Fortune Shrine looked up at the sky. What happened? On the 3rd island, the Messenger of Fate was also surprised. He felt an extremely terrifying power coming from the 7th island. He had never seen this kind of power before. For a moment, many figures flew toward the 7th island. However, the Goddess of Fate said, If there's nothing, you don't have to come. Hearing the goddess's words, the masters all returned to their palaces. However, they were very curious about what happened on the 7th island. On the island, Lin Xian withdrew the power of Immortals and said, That's it. Although I have condensed the power of Immortals, this state is not stable. Once I use it, my body will be affected. So, I came here to completely consolidate the power of Immortals. I don't know if you have any way. The goddess and the Great Elder were silent. After a while, the Great Elder said, Young man, you really don't want to live. You're not the only one who wants to walk the path of immortals. There were many people who wanted to walk this path before, but without exception they all died. None of them succeeded. The situation forced me to walk this path. I have no choice. Lin Xian said in a deep voice, "Can you help me change my fate?" "I can agree to any conditions." Hearing this, the great elder also looked at the goddess of fate. The goddess of fate said, "Okay, I'll change your fate." The great elder exclaimed, "Goddess, the price is too high. He walks the path of immortals. We have never seen such a thing. If it doesn't succeed, it will be a great loss to us." The goddess said, "Great elder, no need to say anything. I've made up my mind." "Great, thank you. What do you need me to do?" Lin Xian was overjoyed. The fortune shrine was extremely mysterious. If they really helped him, he might really succeed. The goddess said, "You walk the path of immortals. It's too difficult to help you change your fate. It will take a long time." Lin Xian asked, "How much time?" The sacred land and the Nirvana realm were still fighting outside. How was the situation? He couldn't stay for too long. 500 years. The saintess said, "What, 500 years? No, that was too long." The great elder also frowned and said, "Young man, you are too greedy. It's as difficult as climbing to the sky to change your fate. Even the fortune shrine will have to pay a great price. 500 years? You think it's too long?" One had to know that if it were anyone else, not to mention 500 years, he could even afford to wait for 50,000 years. The goddess of fate said, 500 years is just an ideal time. Maybe it will take longer. As for the battle outside, I've heard some of it. They have been fighting for millions of years. 500 years is nothing to them. But it's very important to you, because once you succeed, you will be the only one in the world. Otherwise, in your current state, sooner or later, your foundation will be broken and you will become a useless person. Okay. Lin Xian nodded and said, "Then let's do as you say." "Do I have to stay in the fortune shrine?" "No, leave. Your first task is to live for 100 years. I will announce to the public that you are the Destiny's child. Those who want to change their fate will come to you. You have to live for 100 years first." Hearing this, the great elder's eyelids twitched. "You are pushing this kid into a sea of fire." There were many masters in the land of destiny, but it was very difficult to change one's fate. Once Lin Xian had the title of Destiny's child, those people would flock to him. They wanted to explore Lin Xian's secrets. The goddess did say, "These 100 years will be very dangerous. Countless masters will come. Great emperors are nothing, but super great emperors may appear. This is a test for you. If you can't even live for 100 years, we don't have to pay a great price to change your fate. Do you understand?" "Yes, I will come to you after 100 years." Lin Xian turned and left. Chapter 61-69. In fact, Lin Xian was also very puzzled. From the conversation between the goddess and the first elder, he learned that the Fane of Destiny had to pay a huge price to change his fate. This price was probably not something that the goddess could decide alone. However, the other party still did it. Why did the other party do it? Lin Xian didn't ask, because he knew that he might only hear the answer 100 years later. He had to live for the next 100 years. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian clenched his fists. This place of destiny was extremely terrifying. At that time, even the super great emperors would come. Lin Xian wasn't afraid of ordinary great emperors because they were no match for him at all. Lin Xian was confident that he could fight against a super great emperor. However, if an earth immortal came, it would be difficult for him. It seemed that he could only take one step at a time. Looking at Lin Xian's back, the first elder said, "Goddess, do you really agree with him?" "This matter is not something that you can decide. You have to ask some of the grand elders, right? I'll go now. The goddess turned around and left. The first elder sighed and didn't follow, because he wasn't qualified to go where the other party wanted to go. The goddess of destiny left the 7th island and flew into the distance. She came to the 33rd island, where there was a huge palace. This was the real fane of destiny. It was like a mythical heavenly palace. The goddess of destiny held a token and opened the door of the palace. After entering, it seemed to be a world of its own. It was incomparably vast. You're acting on your own. At this moment, a cold voice came from the sky. It was a woman's voice with endless majesty. The goddess of destiny bowed and said, "Greetings, master." In the sky, a woman's phantom appeared. At the same time, several figures appeared around her. They were all different in height, fat and thin. However, the aura on their bodies was extremely terrifying. "Greetings, grand elders," the goddess bowed here. An old man said, "Tell me, why did you do this?" He condensed the power of an immortal and broke his own fate. The goddess said. Another person shook his head, but his condition is unstable. To be honest, we don't know how long he can live. So, I gave him 100 years. 100 years was enough to prove everything. Several elders spoke one after another, and the goddess was able to calmly respond. In the end, the supreme elders also fell silent. At this moment, the middle-aged woman said, "Why do you have to help him? We, the land of destiny, do not have to participate in the affairs of the outside world, because I saw hope in him." The goddess's eyes flickered as she spoke. At this moment, the entire fortune shrine fell silent. Was there hope? Are you trying to get him to do that? The middle-aged woman asked. The goddess nodded. That's right, maybe he can do it. Master, grand elders, I've already said what I wanted to say. You can decide. The figures in the sky began to communicate in low voices. Some were arguing, some were discussing. 3 days later, all sounds disappeared. The middle-aged woman said, "We've decided to do as you say. I hope everything goes well." "Yes." An old man said, "How many years has it been?" We were all in despair. I didn't expect that there would be a little hope now. Disciple, go ahead and do it. We will fully support you. Thank you, Master. Thank you, grand elders. The goddess's lips curled up into a smile. Then she left the shrine. The goddess of destiny returned to the 7th island. The grand elder was waiting there anxiously. Seeing the goddess return, he asked, "How was it?" "Master," and the others agreed. "Really?" The grand elder was stunned. In his opinion, this was almost impossible. Could it be that those supreme elders all placed their hopes on a young man? And a young man from all the realms in the universe. The goddess took a deep breath, looked at the grand elder and said, "Let's start. Give him the title of Destiny's Child and spread it throughout the land of destiny." "Okay, I'll go now." The grand elder began to act. Not long after, a big news came from the land of destiny. The fortune shrine issued an edict. Lin Xian was named Destiny's Child. For a moment, the entire land of destiny was in an uproar. Countless martial artists were stunned. Even the great emperors were dumbfounded. To them, the fortune shrine was a place of myths and legends. It was a place that everyone yearned for, because there, one could defy the heavens and change one's fate. They didn't know much about the fortune shrine. They knew that the people outside the fortune shrine were called the messengers of destiny. If one wanted to enter the fortune shrine, they had to go through these messengers. And in the fortune shrine, they only knew of one goddess of destiny. She seemed to be the symbol of the fortune shrine. As for the Destiny's Child, they had never heard of it. Even those great emperors who had lived for tens of thousands of years, or even older figures, were puzzled. What was the Destiny's Child? Was it the same as the goddess of destiny? Why did they name this person the Destiny's Child? Who was Lin Xian? They had never heard of him. For a moment, Countless voices of discussion and speculation were heard. The entire land of destiny was abuzz with discussion. Even some earth immortals were alarmed. Had they come? Lin Xian took a deep breath. He didn't expect the fortune shrine to act so quickly, but fortunately, these people only knew a name and didn't know him. However, not long after, about 5 days, all kinds of news about the Destiny's Child spread. This news was naturally released by the fortune shrine. It was spread throughout the land of destiny through the powerhouses of various families. Do you know what the Destiny's Child meant? It seemed to be a secret about destiny. God, that Lin Xian had the secret about destiny. Was he really that amazing? Who was this Lin Xian? It was said that he was a young man. Lin Xian also heard this news. At this moment, Lin Xian was in a huge city and came to a restaurant every day. The news here was extremely fast. After another 2 days, Lin Xian found that these people were holding portraits in their hands. Many of them had portraits in their hands. Someone said, "This is what Lin Xian looks like. He's quite handsome. I wonder how he mastered the secret of destiny." When Lin Xian heard this, his face darkened. He stood up and left. "Hey, look at the guy who just left. Doesn't he look like the person in the portrait? No way, are you dreaming?" The Destiny's Child was so high and mighty. No matter what, he had to sit in the fortune shrine. Have you seen the goddess of destiny? Even the goddess didn't come out. How could the Destiny's Child come out? But he really looked like her. Damn, it's really the same. It's that kid. Stop. Immediately, many experts rushed over. The Destiny's Child was right in front of them. How could they not go crazy? If they caught him, they might be able to know the secret of destiny. At that time, they would be able to defy the heavens and change their fate. Chapter 6170. In an instant, hundreds of figures rushed over and surrounded Lin Xian. "Stay. Are you the child of destiny? Tell me, what kind of secret does destiny have? How can you change your fate?" One after another, angry shouts sounded. Lin Xian stopped and turned around. "Get lost." The cold shout was like a clap of thunder. Hundreds of figures were sent flying as if they had been struck by lightning. They fell to the ground, their faces full of horror. "Great Emperor Cultivation! Great Emperor, we were wrong. We will leave now. Thank you for not killing us." These hundreds of figures turned around and fled. No matter what secrets he had, everyone below the Great Emperor was an ant. They didn't dare to have any ideas about a great emperor. Lin Xian's figure flashed and left the giant city. However, not long after he left, a figure rushed over from the city. There was also the aura of a great emperor spreading out. A great emperor made a move. "Fellow Taoist, please wait." A voice sounded outside the giant city. Then a man rushed out. This man had black wings on his back and terrifying patterns on his face. His eyes were dark and full of pupils. Just like that, he blocked Lin Xian's path. There were black flames dancing on his body. That was the divine fire. Obviously, this was a great emperor. "You want to stop me too?" Lin Xian frowned. The great emperor said, "Fellow Taoist, you don't know me, right? I am the Bat, Great Emperor. I heard that you are the child of destiny. Tell me the secret of destiny." You are not qualified to know the secret. Kid, you are too arrogant. It seems that you don't know how powerful I am." In the next moment, the man attacked. In an instant, he was in front of Lin Xian. He threw a punch at Lin Xian. Black divine fire danced on his fist, like a meteor shooting star. Seeing this scene, the people in the giant city all exclaimed, "The two great emperors are going to fight." And the one who attacked was the Bat Great Emperor. It was said that his dark divine fire was extremely terrifying. In the face of such a terrifying attack, Lin Xian coldly snorted and punched out. Extremely frightening flames also appeared on his body. Those were golden flames. The black flames and the golden flames collided, causing the heavens and the earth to shatter. Then a figure flew out. Boom! The hundreds of mountains in front of him were all smashed into pieces by this figure. The Bat Emperor screamed miserably. The people in the distant giant city were dumbfounded. The Bat Emperor was actually sent flying by a single punch. This was simply too unbelievable. One had to know that this was the pressure of the Bat Emperor. How terrifying was he? He was known as the King of Darkness. Very few people dared to attack him, but now he was sent flying with a single punch. Lin Xian looked ahead and said in a low voice, "I told you, you don't have the right to know. This is the first time I will spare your life. Next time, if you dare to block my path again, I will directly behead you." With that, Lin Xian turned around and soared into the air. In the distant ruins of the mountain range, the Bat Emperor stood up. There was a bloody hole in his body that was slowly recovering. His expression became extremely ugly. Looking at Lin Xian's departing figure, he did not dare to chase after him. That moment just now was too terrifying. That was an absolute suppression power. This guy was not an ordinary great emperor. Looking at his age, he should be a young genius. He actually had such power. This was the child of destiny. He was indeed strong. However, in the next moment, the Bat Emperor frowned. "I did make a move, but someone else did. Let's go over and take a look." The Bat Emperor's figure flickered. He hid in the void and quietly followed. He did not get too close because he was afraid that Lin Xian would really kill him. In front, Lin Xian flew all the way towards the boundless mountains. He frowned. He could naturally sense that the Bat Emperor was following him. This guy, was he still not giving up? His expression was cold. However, in the next moment, his expression changed. His figure flickered, and he instantly dodged. The place where he was originally standing was torn into pieces by several rays of light. In the next moment, Lin Xian came to a mountain peak and said coldly, "Get out here." The surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. There was not even a trace of wind. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. Lin Xian snorted. "You don't want to come out?" With a wave of his hand, the sky turned into 9 suns and flew out in all directions. As soon as those suns came, they spread out endlessly. Boom, boom, boom. Extremely terrifying cracks appeared in the surroundings. In these divine flames, there were several cold snorts. Then a crack appeared and 7 figures walked out from it. They all had the aura of a great emperor. In an instant, they surrounded Lin Xian tightly. "You are the child of destiny? Tell me the secret of destiny, and I will spare your life." On the other side, the Bat Emperor stopped and hid in a big tree. He looked ahead nervously. If he encountered 7 great emperors, he would definitely die. He wondered if this child of destiny could withstand them. Lin Xian looked around. 7 great emperors. They were indeed powerful. It seemed that the moment the title of Child of Destiny was announced, the great emperors of this world began to move. But so what? Lin Xian looked around and said, 7 people are still not enough. "Kid, you defeated the Bat Emperor before. We admit that you are powerful, but none of the 7 of us is weaker than him. You will never be able to withstand the 7 of us together." One of the great emperors took a deep breath and said coldly, "Attack." The 7 of them immediately rushed up. In order to change their fate, they were willing to give up everything. However, the conditions set by the Fane of Destiny were too harsh. Even the great emperors could not fulfill them. Now, a child of destiny had appeared. How could they give up this opportunity? Lin Xian snorted and punched out. 9 suns' divine fist. 9 suns circled around his fist. He collided with the 7 great emperors. The sky fell and the earth cracked. So powerful. Don't hold back. Attack with all your might. The 7 great emperors all took out their apex weapons. Terrifying apex aura erupted and swept across the world. At this moment, the martial artists in the nearby space were all terrified. The powerhouses in the surrounding cities were shocked. They looked up at the sky. There was a destructive aura in the sky. It was the aura of the 7 great emperors. They were fighting. Who were they fighting with? They were not sure. The battle in the distance was getting more and more terrifying. The 7 apex weapons, combined with the power of the great emperors, struck out an apex attack. Thousands of black holes appeared in the sky. Lin Xian rose into the sky. He roared to the sky and took out the immortal slaying sword. Slaying immortal with one sword. Boom! Just this one slash had split a great emperor into 2 halves. The great emperor screamed and was severely injured. The other 6 were also shocked. Damn it! Quickly launch a peerless attack. The 7 great emperors did not dare to hold back. But Lin Xian roared, "Get lost! Or die!" The next moment, he stared at an elder and attacked wildly. The power of an immortal erupted. It merged with the immortal slaying sword. He stabbed out with the sword. Chapter 61:71. Those who oppose me shall be killed. With a roar, a sword slashed out. The old man on the other side also shouted angrily. 2 shields appeared on his fingers as he tried to block the attack. The shields seemed to have turned into 2 mountains. Their defense was unparalleled, and they even crushed the sky. However, his 2 shields were directly pierced through by a single sword strike. The old man's eyes widened. The sword chi had pierced through his forehead. How could this be? The power of the gods and the murderous intent of the immortal slaying sword tore his soul into pieces. Boom! The old man's body fell from the sky. His emperor blood dyed the 9 heavens red. He was dead. The 6 great emperors were dumbfounded. In the distance, the Bat Emperor's body was also trembling. There was a look of horror in his eyes. Had the great emperor fallen? That was impossible, right? Was he dreaming? However, not long after, a rain of blood fell from the sky above the land of destiny. Heaven and earth mourned. He was really dead. The Bat Emperor was shocked. Only the fall of a great emperor would cause such a shocking phenomenon. The martial artists in the distant city all knelt down. A great emperor had fallen. What kind of person was he fighting against? After the sword pierced through his opponent, Lin Xian also spat out a mouthful of blood. This was caused by the impact of the power of the gods on his body. He was injured. Kill him. That should be his ultimate move. He must have paid a terrible price. Otherwise, he couldn't have killed a great emperor so easily. The other 6 powerhouses roared. Extremely terrifying divine fire and immortal chi erupted from their bodies. It was dazzling. The 6 of them attacked together. Lin Xian snorted. With a wave of his hand, he took out a fragment of the reincarnation sword and placed it in the void. At the same time, he opened his Rinnegan and summoned the phantom of the reincarnation sword. The fragment of the reincarnation sword combined with the phantom to form a peerless sword that slashed down from the sky. What was that? It was so terrifying. The 6 great emperors felt their hair stand on end. They quickly retreated, but it was still too late. A young man was instantly hit. His soul was also shattered. This young man was also a great emperor. After he died, the immortal chi on his body quickly disappeared. His body fell from the sky. Between heaven and earth, another rain of blood fell. He died again. The remaining 5 great emperors were stunned. In the blink of an eye, 2 great emperors were dead. The other party could instantly kill a great emperor. This must be a super great emperor. Let's go, let's go. They didn't dare to say anything else. They turned around and ran. In fact, these people even ignited their divine flames and immortal chi. His speed was extremely fast. The Bat Emperor also merged with the void and fled quickly. For a moment, the surroundings were eerily quiet. Humph. Lin Xian snorted coldly and turned to leave. The news quickly spread. An entire world was in an uproar. Everyone in the land of destiny was shocked. The 7 great monarchs fought against the child of destiny and lost. On top of that, 2 martial monarchs had died there. Destiny's child was too strong, able to instantly kill a great emperor. Even if he had to pay a price, it was still a heaven-defying feat. He was probably very close to becoming a super great emperor. Ordinary martial emperors would not dare to go there. Even if they joined forces, it would not be enough. However, someone said, "I think the super great emperors are going to take action soon." Indeed, there were super great emperors on the move. Even super great emperors had their own destinies. It was difficult for them to break through. Therefore, they also needed the help of the Fane of Destiny. The person who came this time was extremely terrifying. He was half black and half white. He was the Yin-Yang Great Emperor, a super great emperor. He had cultivated 2 divine flames, the Yin-Yang divine flames. He spent a month to find Lin Xian. He descended from the sky. The black and white aura in his eyes was extremely powerful. He said in a low voice, "Young man, tell me the secret of your destinies." Yin-Yang aura? Lin Xian's eyes turned serious. A super great emperor finally met an opponent of this level. A super great emperor was stronger than ordinary great emperors. Even if many great emperors joined forces, they would not be a match for a super great emperor. However, Lin Xian was an exception. Although he had just attained the Tao not long ago, although he had just attained enlightenment, his combat power was not weaker than a super great emperor. Therefore, Lin Xian was not afraid of the Yin-Yang Great Emperor at all. He said, "Do you want to know the secret of your destinies?" "Hurry up and say it." The Yin-Yang Great Emperor laughed. The other party was so timid. He only needed to scare him, and he told him. That was great. However, it made sense. No matter how strong the other party was, he only had 1 divine flame. How could he be a match for him? Even 10 great emperors were no match for him. Therefore, in order to save his life, the other party would tell him. Lin Xian said with a smile, "It's easy to break through your destinies. Can't you just cultivate the divine flame and immortal qi together?" Hearing this, the Yin-Yang Great Emperor's face darkened. "Kid, are you messing with me? Everyone knows that no one can do that. Do you really think I'm an idiot? Since you don't want to tell me, don't blame me for being rude." After saying that, he stretched out a hand and pointed downwards. In his opinion, the other party could not even block this finger. That was indeed the case. Previously, he had attacked a great emperor. With a light flick of his finger, that great emperor was severely injured. The kid in front of him was no exception. Lin Xian smiled at the other party's finger. Was the other party looking down on him? He would make the other party pay a painful price. Lin Xian punched out. It collided with the other party's finger. With a crack, the other party's finger was broken. "You're courting death." Feeling the pain, the Yin-Yang Great Emperor was completely furious. It was unbelievable that the other party had hurt him. Since when could an ant bite a giant dragon? This was completely illogical. Because even if an ordinary great emperor attacked with all his strength, it would not be able to hit him head-on. He would not be able to break through his defense. Unless that great emperor had a legendary divine weapon, he might be able to do it. But the kid in front of him hurt him with just the strength of his physique. Impossible. How did you do it? Take a guess. Lin Xian smiled. "You're courting death." The Yin-Yang Great Emperor stretched out a pair of big hands and grabbed down. However, Lin Xian roared to the sky and punched out. The Yin-Yang Great Emperor was knocked back. He was dumbfounded. That power just now. How strange. What was going on? The Yin-Yang Great Emperor stretched out his hands. The power of Yang in his left hand and the power of Yin in his right. His hands merged, forming a Yin-Yang image. "Suppress it." Lin Xian sneered. "I'll let you see my power." After saying that, he stretched out his hands. The divine fire on his left hand jumped. An immortal qi filled his right hand. His hands merged. and the power of God and immortal merged into one, forming a divine power that flew up. That's impossible. The Yin-Yang Great Emperor's eyes almost popped out. How could immortal qi and divine fire exist in the same person at the same time? Moreover, this guy actually merged them. Boom! After an earth-shattering sound, he was knocked back. His blood was boiling. He was injured. However, he was even more shocked. Previously, that kid said that if he wanted to break through destiny, he had to merge the power of God and immortal. At that time, he thought that the other party was playing with him. But now he realized that what the other party said was actually true. This guy really merged the power of God and immortal. He didn't die. He did it. Wasn't he too lucky? One had to know that for thousands of years, no one had ever been able to do it. Chapter 61-72. Yin-Yang Emperor roared, Yin and Yang fusion. He quickly charged over and fought with Lin Xian's divine power. The more he fought, the more shocked he became. He discovered that Lin Xian had really fused with the divine power. However, the other party's divine power seemed to be unstable. Once he used it, his body would be torn apart. Great opportunity. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to take down the other party and ask about the secret of the life providence, while asking how to fuse with the divine power. However, when Lin Xian took out the immortal slaying sword, the Yin-Yang Emperor instantly ran away. He was sent flying by the sword and cracks appeared on his body. Divine artifact! He cried out in alarm and turned around to flee. A person who was not weaker than him was holding a divine artifact. Even if the other party's state was unstable, he was still not his match. Looking at the other party's fleeing figure, Lin Xian frowned. Although he had defeated a super great emperor this time, it was too difficult to kill a super great emperor. It was more than 10 times more difficult than killing an ordinary great emperor. In his current state, it was very difficult to keep the other party. Moreover, it had only been a month. Was he going to fight like this for 100 years? It was truly a difficult challenge. Lin Xian turned around and left. He found a place and went to the sword world to absorb all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, as well as the spirit spring of life, to heal his injuries. At the same time, when he had nothing to do, he would send his clone to dig for treasures in the sword world. Now that the great dragon sword spirit was not around, he had to find more life-saving methods. At the very least, when he met a land immortal, he had to have a way to fight against them. In the following year, Lin Xian kept walking in the land of destiny. Yin-Yang Emperor had returned, and he had even found 2 helpers. 3 super great emperors joined forces to chase after Lin Xian. However, they actually let Lin Xian escape. This made Yin-Yang Emperor grit his teeth. Damn it, where did this kid go? They left helplessly. After they left, Lin Xian walked out of the sword world. He sneered and continued to set off. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. In the past 10 years, there had been many battles, and some great emperors had fallen. Everyone in the land of destiny was stunned. They knew that a child of destiny had appeared, causing countless experts to go crazy. However, the strength of destiny's child was terrifying. Ordinary great emperors weren't his match. Even super great emperors might not be able to defeat him. Once the super great emperors joined forces, the other party would disappear without a trace. It was truly strange. However, the battle was not over yet because the people in the land of destiny wanted to change their fate. They continued to pursue Lin Xian. While Lin Xian was undergoing the trial and being hunted down by experts, the various worlds outside were also engaged in fierce battles. Lin Xian had been sent to the land of destiny, but the battle between the realm of gods and the otherworld heavenly king hadn't ended. This battle lasted for 10 years. The depths of the universe had long been beaten into countless nothingness. Black holes bobbed up and down, causing the myriad worlds to tremble in fear. Was this a battle between gods? It was too scary. However, what shocked them even more was that even with so many Earth immortals joining forces, they still couldn't defeat Grand Supreme. How terrifying was this, Taishang? Grand Supreme had also gone crazy. Back then, when he was at his peak, he didn't put these people in his eyes at all. Unfortunately, his body wasn't in the right state. Otherwise, he would have destroyed these people long ago. After 10 years of battle, he could tell that it was impossible to take down these people for the time being. Therefore, he didn't continue to attack. "I'll let you live for a while longer," Grand Supreme said coldly and left with the heavenly punishment sword. Did he leave? Lord Alcohol, Lin Zhan, and the others heaved a sigh of relief. The battle of 10 years had caused them to tremble in fear. They weren't qualified to participate in the battle with Grand Supreme. However, the battle with Essence Immortal, Master Rashi, and the others had also exhausted them. In the past 10 years, their bodies had been shattered countless times. They were all seriously injured. Of course, the other party didn't have it easy either. Their bodies had been shattered by them many times. Both sides had their wins and losses. Now, with Grand Supreme's departure, Essence Immortal, Master Rashi, and the others also returned to the other world, Heavenly King. The people from the Supreme Palace had also retreated. It seemed like they had to rest for the time being. On the realm of God's side, the battle god and the others had returned. Heavenly Emperor Yez Phantom slowly disappeared into the heaven and earth cauldron. Heaven-devouring Great Emperor's figure also gradually faded. He looked at Wine Sword Immortal and said, "You can only rely on yourself in the future. You haven't fully unleashed the power of the heaven-devouring sword." Lord Alcohol smiled bitterly. "Perhaps I'm not suitable to cultivate the heaven-devouring sword at all." Heaven-devouring Great Emperor didn't say anything else. Her figure slowly disappeared. Lord Alcohol sighed. He liked to be free and unfettered. As for the heaven-devouring sword, it represented greed and unwillingness. It wanted to devour the world to strengthen itself. It was the opposite of Lord Alcohol's path. Therefore, Lord Alcohol couldn't unleash the full power of the heaven-devouring sword. However, the heaven-devouring sword was such an important thing that he couldn't easily give it away. Therefore, Lord Alcohol could only take one step at a time. "Do you want to find a new successor?" The fighting god flew over and said the same thing. Lord Alcohol said, "Is there anyone suitable?" He looked around. Lin Zhan shook his head. "I'm not suitable." The Lion King, the Empress, and the others also shook their heads. They wondered if Lin Xian was suitable for the heaven-devouring sword. Lord Alcohol thought of Lin Xian. However, Lin Zhan said he's not suitable either. Besides, he already has the reincarnation sword and the great dragon sword. Actually, the great dragon sword was the most suitable for him. The heaven-devouring sword wasn't suitable for him. Besides, don't doubt yourself. You've already had the heaven-devouring sword for tens of thousands of years. Although it's not as good as the heaven-devouring Great Emperor, it's still extremely powerful. The others chimed in one after another. Lord Alcohol nodded. At this moment, laughter came from afar. "If you don't want it, you can give it to me." Hearing this voice, everyone turned their heads and saw a demonic figure appear in the void. It was the Demon Emperor. The Empress and the others frowned. The Demon Emperor walked over and stared at Lord Alcohol. "Give me the heaven-devouring sword. You know that I'm very greedy." The Demon Emperor wanted to increase his strength at all costs. The Demon Emperor was the most suitable for the heaven-devouring sword. "Give it to me. When the time comes, I'll help you." Lin Zhan and the others frowned. The Demon Emperor was too greedy. He was really unscrupulous for everything. If they gave it to the other party, it would be hard to predict whether it would be a blessing or a curse. Lord Alcohol also shook his head. Xian Yuan even slapped the Demon Emperor lightly and sent him flying. He said indifferently, "Go to the wasteland of the universe and wake up. Not long after the demon emperor was sent flying, the moon goddess also arrived with a murderous aura. She led the people of the human world and said, "Where's the demon emperor? Where is that old thing?" Everyone was stunned. After a while, they smiled bitterly and said, "He was slapped to the wasteland of the universe by Lord Xianyuan. It will probably take a few years for him to come back." "Humph, he's lucky." The moon goddess gritted her teeth. Chapter 61-73. Lord Alcohol sighed. He wondered when Lin Xian would return. Lin Zhan said, "It won't be that easy. Even if he wants to change his fate, it won't be too fast. Let's prepare first to prevent their counterattack. We need people to fight for the cities we attack." Everyone nodded. This time they were all seriously injured and needed to recuperate. Xianyuan said, "Leave the great dragon's sword with me first. When Lin Xian returns, tell him to find me at the Slanting Moon Cave." After saying that, he turned into a sword light and returned with the great dragon's sword. We also returned to the heavens. The people from the divine realm returned to the heavens. Shangqing City. Shangqing City was a very special city in the heavens. They had to recover here first. After a few years, they would send people to other cities. They had already taken down 2 cities in the heavens. They had to send people to guard the 2 cities in the Tartarus. These cities were very useful. Moreover, cultivating in these cities was much faster than cultivating outside. It wasn't easy to take down these cities. They definitely couldn't allow others to take them away. In the blink of an eye, another 10 years had passed. 10 years was a blink of an eye for these top experts. Lin Zhan and the others had been in seclusion for 10 years. In the past 10 years, they had recovered from their injuries through the earth veins in Shangqing City. Next, Lin Zhan prepared to head to the Tartarus. He was going to guard the city. In the Tartarus, battles were constantly erupting. The people from the Supreme Palace had started to fight for cities. The Permethar realm was also taking action. It wouldn't be long before these people came to the heavens. Among them, Murong Qingcheng, Yen Ruyu, and Xueqi were also heading to the Tartarus to train. Lin Xian had successfully attained his Tao. The next people could attain their Tao. However, in the universe, one couldn't attain their Tao within 10,000 years. However, there was no such restriction in the heavens and the Tartarus. They could attain their Tao there. As for the other great emperor clans, Yi Wu Dao, Gu Santong, Qilin, and the others also headed there. They also had to choose their own Tao. Time passed slowly, and 50 years had passed. In 50 years, many ordinary people had turned from youths to gray-haired. However, to these cultivators it was nothing. To a great emperor, it was merely a training exercise. Murong Qingqing and Yen Ryu were still as beautiful as ever. Furthermore, they were still young. After all, those great emperors had lived for tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of years. In fact, in order to snatch the treasure, they had even escaped from an old monster that was millions of years old. It's about time. I'm about to prove my Tao. Murong Qingqing was delighted. Yan Ryu also said, "I also feel that a breakthrough is imminent." Next, he had to find a place to go into seclusion. In 50 years, the gods' realm had conquered another city in the 9th Serenity. Not only that, but the Supreme Hall and the Otherworld, Heavenly King, had also taken down a few cities. They began to occupy these cities and use the earth veins in the cities to cultivate. It had been more than 50 years since the last War of the Gods. The people of the Permethar continent weren't willing to accept this. Before, they had been the rulers and were high and mighty. However, in the last battle, they didn't have the upper hand. In fact, they had been surpassed by the god realm and had fallen behind. Lin Wudi had gone to the land of destiny. They didn't know what would happen. Therefore, they felt the pressure. The Grand Supreme was even more furious. After the last battle, he immediately went into seclusion. 50 years later, he opened his eyes. After opening his eyes, He summoned the virtual immortal and Master Rashi. Even the saber immortal was summoned. The saber immortal was originally cultivating in the treasure land, but he had to come out of seclusion at this moment. He looked at the 3 land immortals. The Grand Supreme said, "We don't have enough people. Let the ghost immortal wake up and call the fox immortal over. The 5 of you should be able to work together." Yes, the virtual immortal nodded. The saber immortal asked, "Lord Grand Supreme, what are your plans?" Naturally, he was going to make a move. After such a long time, it seemed that these people had forgotten the power of the Permethot continent. We are the kings of all the realms. Now, how dare the people of the god realm be arrogant in front of us? Gather the land immortals. Activate our power and summon a group of puppets. Attack me. No matter what method you use, I want you to surpass the god realm. I'll only give you 50 years. 50 years later, I'll activate the power of the divine punishment to destroy the world. Among them, the land immortals gasped when they heard this. The divine punishment will destroy the world? The saber immortal said, "Lord Grand Supreme, it hasn't reached that point yet, right? The group of people from the god realm hasn't returned yet, and our people haven't fully awakened. Why do you want to destroy the world in advance now?" "Because I'm the Grand Supreme." The Grand Supreme stood up, and a cold light appeared in his eyes. "They actually dared to make me suffer, so I'll destroy them all. They thought that with a few remnant souls left here, they would be able to contend against me. Ridiculous. I'll let them know what despair is. Go and prepare. Don't disturb me in these 50 years. Yes." The 3 land immortals left. After they went out, their expressions became extremely solemn. The virtual immortal said, "I'll go find the fox immortal. I don't want to go to the ghost immortal." The saber immortal said, "I'll go." The Rashi immortal said, "Then I'll go and integrate the other forces. We only have 50 years, so we have to hurry. Otherwise, if the Grand Supreme gets angry, we won't have a good ending." A hint of fear appeared in the eyes of these people. Even though they were land immortals, they didn't dare to go against the Grand Supreme's will. In a forest in the Eternal Land, there were countless foxes of all colors. They sometimes transformed into handsome men, and sometimes into beautiful women. They were living a carefree and happy life. After the virtual immortal descended, the foxes scattered. Among them, a little fox ran over and said, "Greetings, land immortal." "Little fox, where is your ancestor?" the virtual immortal asked. The little fox jumped over and said, "Ancestor is still sleeping. Take me there. The Grand Supreme wants him to wake up." The little fox led the way in front. They walked through thousands of caves. Finally, the virtual immortal stopped in a cave. In front of him, a woman was sleeping. She was very beautiful, and there was a charm on her body. Even he didn't dare to approach her easily. "You should wake up. The Grand Supreme wants you to make a move. Sigh, you can't even take an afternoon nap. You men are really boring." The beautiful woman in front of him opened her eyes. Her voice was lazy. She yawned and stretched. Then the beautiful woman walked out of the cave. The little fox jumped onto her body. The beautiful woman said, "You slept for tens of thousands of years." The little fox was counting with her fingers. The virtual immortal frowned and said, "I don't have time to chat with you here. The Grand Supreme wants to activate the heavenly punishment 50 years later. You better hurry." "What? Did I oversleep?" The fox immortal was stunned. Was the final battle coming? Had the people from the divine realm returned? No. However, the Grand Supreme was angry. "Let's talk as we walk." The fox immortal nodded and put down the little fox. She was no longer joking. Instead, her expression was extremely serious. It seemed that things were going to be troublesome this time. On the other side, the west side of the Eternal Land was surrounded by ghostly chi. It was eerie and terrifying, as if it was another hell. After the saber immortal descended, countless vengeful spirits and ghosts flew out. There were also Een soldiers who wanted to make a move. The saber immortal snorted coldly. He released a saber intent from his eyes and directly cut through everything. He stepped in all directions and said, "Ghost immortal, come out. I have a mission." Chapter 6174. Boom! The ground in the distance cracked open, and a pitch-black coffin flew out and floated in the air. Then the coffin opened, and an old man walked out of it. This old man was short, only about 1 meter tall, and his body was pitch-black. His face was pale, and he looked very gloomy and terrifying. He chuckled and said, "Did the Grand Elder ask me to make a move? That's great. My army of 10,000 ghosts will be able to grow again." Next, the 5 Earth Immortals gathered in the Eternal Land. The 5 of them discussed for a while, and then quickly took action. They went to the 9th Serenity first. Their goal was to take down 3 cities in the 9th Serenity, plus the previous 2. That would be 5. In the next moment, they took action. In the 9th Serenity, the assassin fought fiercely against the fox. Those people in the 9th Serenity also went crazy. They were all in a killing frenzy, and some of the Earth Immortals, extremely powerful existences, took action one after another. Black Glow City, a city in the 9th Underworld, was surrounded by many experts who were attacking it. Most of them were from the 9th Serenity, and some were from other realms. These people fought fiercely. Among them, there was a very powerful group. They were the subordinates of the Thunder God. These people carried powerful thunder and lightning power, which swept in all directions, and they achieved a crushing result. For a while, no one dared to fight against them. Just when they were in despair, a woman walked over. This was a beautiful woman, as if she had walked out of a dream, making everyone's eyes turn red. Those great emperors' blood was boiling. The beautiful woman said, "Help me take down this city, and I will reward you." Hearing this, many people's souls shook. A strange light appeared in their eyes, and in the next moment they rushed over. At this time, one of the Thunder God's subordinates roared, "Is this the art of charm? It's useless to me." He roared to the sky, and the thunder and lightning on his body rushed to the sky. "My thunder has the power of violent destruction. You can't charm me." As soon as he finished speaking, thousands of people around him directly attacked him. "No!" He screamed and was instantly smashed into pieces. Subsequently, tens of thousands of powerhouses attacked Black Gold City from all directions. Immortal Fox's lips curled into a smile. She stood there with her hands clasped behind her back. There was no need for her to make a move. With just a glance or a word, she could make countless experts go crazy for her. Not long after, Blackshine City was conquered and Immortal Fox walked in. On the other side, Dead Spirit City. This was also a huge city in the 9 Serenities, and it was incomparably ancient. More importantly, there are countless corpses and bones scattered all around the huge city. No one attacked this place because no one dared to come. However, on that day, an old man walked over. The old man was short and wore a black robe. There were ghostly flames dancing in his eyes. He was the Ghost Immortal. After the Ghost Immortal arrived, he formed a seal with his palm and slapped the ground. The earth cracked open. 12 coffins appeared. Every coffin was pitch black. After the coffins were opened, the surrounding bones were all sucked in. Then it was reassembled. Soon, 12 white skeleton warriors walked out from inside. These skeletons were too powerful. They were formed from the bones of countless experts who had died. The 12 powerful skeletons began to attack the city. Not long after, the Dead Spirit City was also conquered. The 2 new Earth Immortals displayed their powerful and peerless divine abilities and methods. After entering, they could activate the Earth Veins. "I want to form an army of 1 million skeletons." A cold light appeared in the Ghost Immortal's eyes. The reason why these cities were important was that there were earth veins in these ancient cities. Earth veins were different from spirit veins. Some places with beautiful mountains and clear waters and strange terrains had spirit veins. However, there were strong and weak spirit veins. The good spirit veins were all occupied by the top families and sections. They cultivated beside the spirit veins and got twice the result with half the effort. Earth veins were similar to spirit veins, but they were of a higher level. Earth veins were for the land immortals to cultivate. However, it was not easy to find earth veins. At present, only in the 9 heavens and 10 earths there were earth veins. Moreover, even in the 9 heavens and 10 earths, only the ancient cities had them. This was also the reason why these ancient cities were so precious. Countless powerhouses wanted to attack the ancient cities. They wanted to improve and cultivate. Only by entering and absorbing the power of the earth veins could they do it. In fact, it was not only the land immortals. The great emperor's cultivation was also very slow outside. If they could enter the ancient city, their cultivation speed would be much faster. Of course, even if a group of great emperors joined forces, it would not be easy to open the ancient city. Only the land immortals would be able to do it. Moreover, this was just an ordinary ancient city. For example, an extremely special ancient city. Even if several land immortals joined forces, they might not be able to open it. It could be said that the earth veins determined their future. Therefore, once the previous great emperors broke through, many of them would submit to the Nirvana realm, because the Nirvana realm had the entire eternal land. There were many such ancient cities in the Nirvana realm. Only when they went in could they continue to cultivate. It might be difficult for the rogue cultivators to go further. The 3rd ancient city was attacked by the Saber Immortal. This city was already occupied. It was the 9 Netherlands Immortal Crane. He led a group of people to attack an ancient city. However, the good times did not last long. After the Saber Immortal came, he directly rushed in and fought with him. The Immortal Crane was furious. He was also a land immortal. How could he be afraid of the other party? However, after a few moves, he was injured. He said in horror, "Why are you so strong? Is it possible that you are cultivating the immortal art?" "Yes, I am cultivating the immortal art, so you are no match for me." The Saber Immortal's eyes burst out with an extremely cold light. Domineering Saber Immortal Art. He used the immortal art to fight with the Immortal Crane. It didn't take long for the Immortal Crane to be defeated. He quickly fled with his injuries. Damn it, just you wait. The Immortal Crane gritted his teeth. He would definitely take revenge. The Saber Immortal stood with his saber and said coldly, "I will wait. Remember, my name is the Saber Immortal. I am a strong man from the Nirvana realm. I will wait for you to take revenge." What? A strong man from the Nirvana realm? The Immortal Crane's body trembled. Forget it. There is no hope for revenge in this life. I'd better leave. He left dejectedly. After taking over the ancient city, the Saber Immortal also opened the earth veins. At the same time, he contacted the Ghost Immortal, Fox Immortal, and others to start attacking the Divine Realm. There were 3 cities in the Divine Realm. They besieged. The battle broke out in an instant. This battle was extremely terrifying. Lin Zhan roared to the sky. Originally, he was cultivating in the earth veins of a city. After feeling the change, he immediately rushed out. "Kill!" He roared angrily and attacked aggressively. At the same time, he sent a message to the people of the heavenly land. Soon, the remaining strong men appeared again. A great battle broke out in the 9th underworld. This time, the people of the Divine Realm were severely injured. Many strong men were seriously injured, and even some great emperors died. The 5 land immortals joined forces and were extremely powerful. At the critical moment, Lord Alcohol exploded. A hint of madness appeared in his eyes. Chapter 61-75. Seeing his comrade injured, Lord Alcohol's eyes turned red. At this moment, he only wanted to devour others to protect his friends. Therefore, he unleashed the power of the devouring sword. The black vortex swallowed everything and blocked the Prometheus' attack. Go! Lord Alcohol and the others entered the ancient city. This time, the Prometheus' sudden sneak attack injured the divine realm. But soon, the divine realm attacked again. The battle between the two was extremely terrifying. On the other side, the Supreme Palace also participated. On the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty side, a few powerhouses also appeared. In addition, there were the native powerhouses of the Nine Nether. The battle was extremely intense. Everyone was frantically strengthening their earth veins. From the looks of it, the battle wouldn't end in a short period of time. Saber Immortal frowned. He looked at Ghost Immortal and said, "Take your ghost army and attack other worlds. The myriad worlds need to fall into a sea of blood to provide us with strength. Also, make them submit to the Prometheus. Those who submit to me will perish. Those who resist me will perish. Those who don't submit don't need to exist." Ghost Immortal sneered and left the Nine Nether with his ghost army. They charged towards the myriad worlds. Fox Immortal even led people to the heavens. It could be said that the myriad worlds had become a battlefield. This time, it wasn't just a battle between the land immortals. In the previous 10 years, it was the top land immortals who fought. Even Lin Zhan and the others did make a move. But this time it wasn't. Other than the land immortals, super great emperors, and even quasi-emperors and saints had to participate in the battle. Not long after, the sea of blood dyed the universe red. The situation could be said to be very dangerous. On this day, between heaven and earth, a phoenix soared into the 9 heavens and rushed into the clouds. She was reborn from the fire, and the terrifying phoenix phantom enveloped the 9 Nether. Everyone's bloodline trembled. Someone testified to the Tao. Was it someone from the phoenix race? Was she an enemy or a friend? The eyes of the 9 Nether races, powerhouses, flickered. In the next moment, Murong Qingqing rushed out from an ancient city. She fused with the phoenix, and then the lightning tribulation descended. The great emperor's lightning tribulation. She wanted to break through and become a great emperor. Together with the lightning tribulation, Murong Qingqing charged towards the enemies in front of her. Quickly dodge. The people on the Prometheus side didn't dare to fight. Unless they brought the power of heavenly punishment with them, they would not be able to withstand this kind of lightning tribulation. He could only temporarily avoid the brunt of the attack. The ancient city was temporarily out of danger. At the same time, Immortal Fox was attacking an ancient city in the Heavens land. However, at this moment, a green lotus bloomed in that ancient city. Then, the beautiful woman walked out of the green lotus. This was Yan Ruyu. She also wanted to attain her Tao. Seeing this scene, Immortal Fox's face turned ugly. Damn it! In the face of the lightning tribulation, he couldn't step forward. Furthermore, they could not borrow the power of the heavenly punishment sword this time because the Taishang was in seclusion and using the heavenly punishment sword with all his might. He was preparing for the heavenly punishment to destroy the world. Now, they could only rely on themselves. He coldly snorted. So what if the righteous path had become a great emperor? When the lightning tribulation disappears, I'll be able to kill you with a single slap. As a land immortal, he had such confidence. Meanwhile, inside the ancient city, the Empress and the others heaved a sigh of relief. That's great. Ruyu has verified her Tao and bought us some time. This time, we have taken defensive measures. Even if she is an Earth immortal, she won't be able to easily enter, activating the Earth vein and the ancient city's array formation. Yan Ruyu and Murong Qingqing had both verified their Tao and strengthened the Divine Union's strength. This gave the Divine Union time to make arrangements to defend against the Prometheus attack. Apart from that, the the great emperor clans also made their moves. Under such circumstances, they also had to enter the Heaven's Land or the 9 underworlds to verify their Tao. Without a great emperor, it would be difficult to survive. Over at the various realms, the battle was extremely intense. However, Lin Xian did not know that. At this moment, Lin Xian was still in the land of destiny. Every once in a while, he would engage in a great battle. Great emperors and super great emperors from all over the land of destiny would attack him. Sometimes they would even join forces to attack him. Lin Xian spent his time in such battles. However, his sword technique was becoming more and more terrifying. His combat strength was becoming more and more shocking. In the land of destiny, everyone was stunned when they heard about these battles. This Destiny's Child was too strong. He had yet to be defeated. Was his name Lin Xian? No, that guy called himself Invincible Lin. God, the mad god Lin was invincible. This kid was too arrogant. He was only a great emperor, yet he dared to call himself a god? Or did he think that he would definitely become a god? Even those super great emperors were gnashing their teeth. They could not take him down. They were no match for him one-on-one. If they joined forces, he would disappear in an instant and they would not be able to find him. This gave them a headache. However, a super great emperor said that we should not make a move for the time being. I received news that an Earth Immortal is going to make a move on him. What? The other great emperors were shocked. An Earth Immortal was going to make a move? A look of horror appeared in their eyes. Even they had to bow their heads in the face of an Earth Immortal. Not many of them had even seen an Earth Immortal before. An Earth Immortal was almost elusive. Did such a person need to change his fate? They were not sure. On this day, the Earth Immortal made a move. An Earth Immortal with white hair came and went without a trace. He was called the Wind God. The Wind God quickly found Lin Xian. Lin Xian was originally cultivating. His sword Tao was becoming more and more terrifying. However, at this moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. A shocking light appeared in his eyes. In the next moment, he felt as if he was facing a great enemy. This was because he felt a wave of pressure that came from all directions. The surrounding space completely enveloped him, making him unable to move. This was the aura of an Earth Immortal. Was an Earth Immortal about to make a move on him? It was unbelievable. All these years he had been fighting with great emperors and super great emperors. He had never seen an Earth Immortal before. He even suspected that an Earth Immortal needed to change his fate. Could it be that such a person had not broken through his own fate? At the same time, he thought of Bayan. Why did he come to the land of destiny? What did Bayan want to change? Was it to change the fate of someone in Bayan? Was it the Grand Supreme? The Grand Supreme was so strong that he could sweep through the heavens and myriad worlds by himself. Did he also need to change his fate? Of course, Lin Xian did not know all of this. He did not know Bayan's secret. However, he could probably guess the origin of this Earth Immortal in front of him. In the next moment, an old man with white hair appeared in front of him. When the old man looked at Lin Xian, his eyes were filled with disillusionment. Interesting. Aren't you afraid when you see this god? Greetings, Senior. Lin Xian bowed and said, To be honest, I've seen too many Earth Immortals. I'm not afraid, because one day I'll reach this realm too. Hearing this, a light appeared in the Wind God's eyes. He's seen too many Earth Immortals? To be honest, he did not believe it. One had to know that Earth Immortals did not have so much time to walk outside. Most of them were cultivating in seclusion. Where did this little guy see so many Earth Immortals? Chapter 61-76. Wind God felt that the kid in front of him was lying. But after looking at him for a while, he felt that the other party was very calm, as if he was really not afraid of him. This made him extremely curious. What was this little guy's trump card? Lin Xian smiled and said, Senior, why did you come to me? Is it for fate? That's right. Wind God nodded. It seems that I don't need to do anything. Young man, tell me everything you know. Although he didn't take any action, he wouldn't fight like the other great emperors. However, Wind God's words seemed to carry an unquestionable aura. Not to mention the great emperors, even the super great emperors would have to kneel down and accept their fate. However, Lin Xian smiled. Senior, I really want to know. Even with your cultivation level, you can't escape fate? Jumping out of fate and not in reincarnation. Easier said than done. Wind God sighed. Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. It seemed that even the land immortals couldn't escape fate, and he seemed to have done it. He had broken through his own fate. He had done something that even the land immortals couldn't do. Thinking of this, Lin Xian couldn't help but smile. He was really heaven-defying. Wind God frowned. Kid, are you mocking me? Do you know? No one has been able to break through fate and jump out of reincarnation. No one. Lin Xian said, Senior, to tell you the truth, I can become the child of fate because I broke my own fate. What? That's impossible. Wind God was shocked. His eyes widened as he stared at Lin Xian. Suddenly, the surrounding wind and clouds surged. Lin Xian felt like he was about to vomit blood. Damn it, land immortals are terrifying. But so what? One day, I will also reach this realm. I will even become stronger than land immortals. Lin Xian took out the immortal slaying sword and circled around him to resist Wind God's pressure. The two collided, making a clanging sound. Wind God retracted his power and then said in surprise, Divine weapon! One had to know that he was also excited just now. He reckoned that the power was enough to tear apart the body of a super martial emperor. This little guy's body merely swayed a little. This was all thanks to the divine artifact. There was a hint of passion in his eyes. But Lin Xian said, The divine weapon given by the Fane of Destiny is not bad. He didn't want to offend the Fortune Shrine, so he immediately changed his mind. He stared at Lin Xian and said, What do you mean by that? It's very simple. I didn't need the help of the Shrine of Destiny to break my fate. After Wind God heard this, he felt that his mind was a little blank. Why did he feel that chatting with this kid was so heart-wrenching? He did not believe it at all. How did you do it? Lin Xian said, Fuse the power of the deities, and you'll be able to do it. It wasn't difficult. Not difficult. Damn you. Wind God was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Fusing the power of the gods. What a joke! Who could do that? Even earth immortals like them couldn't do it. He didn't even dare to think about it. Lin Xian condensed a ball of power of the gods and floated in the air. He said, Senior, take a look. Wind God didn't believe it at first, but when he saw this ball of power of the gods, he fell silent. He felt his heart bleeding. Previously, he thought that this kid was lying, but he found that the other party really did it. This was the power of the gods. An unprecedented power appeared in the hands of a young man. Lin Xian nodded and retracted the power of the gods. Then he said, Senior, this is the secret of destiny. Condense the power of the gods and break your fate. You can surpass everything. It's very simple. Senior, you can try it. Simple? The corner of Wind God's mouth twitched. He turned around and disappeared. Lin Xian was surprised. Senior, why are you leaving? Don't you want to chat? I still have a lot of experience in fusing the power of the gods. Do you want to hear it? Boom. As soon as Lin Xian finished speaking, the air around him instantly turned into a big hand and enveloped him. Then the ground cracked and he was beaten into the ground. With a bang, Lin Xian walked out of the ground and patted the soil off his body. He smiled. The land immortal was so narrow-minded. He only chatted for a while. Did he have to send him flying? Of course, the other party only sent him flying and didn't dare to hurt him, because he was now representing the Temple of Destiny. This surprised Lin Xian. It seemed that the Temple of Destiny was more terrifying than he had imagined. Even the land immortals didn't dare to offend it. On the contrary, those great emperors and super great emperors didn't understand the terror of the Temple of Destiny. They kept chasing after him. Wind God went back. Someone was waiting for him. How was it? Did you find out the secret of destiny? One of them asked. He was looking forward to it. This person was Fire God. In addition, there was an illusion in the void. This illusion was extremely illusory, but it was also a land immortal. Wind God glanced at the two of them and then snorted coldly. I'm going into seclusion. If there's nothing else, get lost. Old Man Wind, do you want to play with us? Fire God frowned. Another illusory voice also said, You want to monopolize the secret of destiny. Wind God was furious. Destiny, destiny, destiny. You talk about destiny in front of me all day long. If you have the ability, go and break through destiny yourself. Don't bother me. After that, Wind God went into seclusion and didn't come out. Fire God frowned. No, I have to go. I can't let this old guy monopolize it. He also went to find Lin Xian. A few days later, he came back with an extremely depressed expression. The illusory figure asked him, What's going on? Fire God said angrily, I want to kill that kid. If it weren't for the Temple of Destiny, I would have slapped him to death 100 times. It was too infuriating. Fire God was very upset. He finally knew why Wind God was so angry that he went into seclusion. He went to find Lin Xian. In the end, he didn't need to threaten him at all. The other party told him the secret of destiny. That kid's smiling face was still echoing in his mind. Senior, it's very simple. Fuse the power of the immortals. I have a lot of experience. Fire God vomited blood on the spot. Fusing the power of the immortals was a path of certain death. No one could succeed. Was this guy messing with him? However, when he saw the power of the immortals, Fire Gods, I almost fell out. This child of destiny had actually fused with the power of the immortals. The other party's casual look made him want to slap him to death. In the end, he hurriedly left. If he continued to chat with this kid, he would go crazy. The power of the immortals? The illusory figure sucked in a breath of cold air. Could that kind of thing really be fused? How terrifying would the power be after the fusion? Fire God said, I don't know. However, according to the previous situation, an ordinary great emperor like him could defeat a super great emperor alone. This was a battle above his level. Do you know how difficult it is to fight above the level of a great emperor? Unless you have a divine artifact. But this kid could fight above his level without a divine artifact. This was probably the power of the immortals. If he became a super great emperor, wouldn't he be able to fight against a land immortal? The illusory figure felt incredulous when he thought of this. Such a thing had never happened before. Under the land immortals, all were ants. They were godlike existences. Fire God said angrily, who knows? I don't think he can become a super great emperor in his life. When he said this, he was full of resentment. Chapter 6177. After 100 years, ordinary people had already completed one cycle of reincarnation: birth, old age, illness, and death. And for powerful cultivators, it was only one closed-door cultivation. For example, the wind god and the fire god would be in closed-door cultivation for hundreds or thousands of years. On this day, Lin Xian opened his eyes. It had been 100 years, and it was finally the appointed time. Lin Xian looked into the distance, and his figure flashed. He headed to the Temple of Destiny. At the same time, in the Temple of Destiny, the main god's hall, the goddess of destiny also walked out from inside. She took a deep breath. During this period of time, they had been secretly observing Lin Xian. In 100 years, the other party had experienced countless battles, and even land immortals had gone to look for him. In the end, the other party had survived without any danger. Thinking about it, The other party was already on his way. Then, the heaven-defying change of fate was about to begin. To change the fate of a person who had fused with the power of an immortal, the Temple of Destiny had to pay a huge price. It was unimaginable. The land immortals of the Temple of Destiny would probably have to go all out and consume a lot of energy. Sometimes this kind of consumption could not be recovered, but they decided to take a gamble. Lin Xian might be the person they were looking for, and he might be able to open the door of hope. When they arrived outside the Temple of Destiny, the Great Elder was already waiting there. Lin Gongzi, please. The Great Elder invited Lin Xian in. They headed to the Seventh Sky Island. There, the Goddess of Destiny was already waiting. Seeing her again, Lin Xian also sighed. He said, 100 years have passed. Can you change my fate for me? The Goddess of Destiny said yes. You have lived for 100 years and escaped countless pursuits. This proves that you are indeed strong and worthy of us changing for you. However, the price we have to pay for your change is great. You have to agree to one condition. What condition? Help us open the door of hope. What is the door of hope? Lin Xian was stunned. You don't need to know what the Goddess of Destiny said yet. You just need to remember this sentence. What is your answer? Lin Xian said yes. In order to change his fate, he had waited so long. Naturally, he would not refuse to open the door of hope. He didn't know what the gate of hope was. You've already sworn to the compass of fate, so you can't go back on your word. Come with me. Next, the Goddess of Fate brought him to the main temple of the 33rd heaven. When he arrived at this place, Lin Xian was truly astounded. Was this the core of the Temple of Fortune? After entering the main shrine, Lin Xian saw an incomparably vast world. At the same time, there were a few terrifying auras in the surroundings. They were the auras of earth gods. At the same time, there was an even larger destiny compass in the sky. Walk to the center of the hall. Next, I will change your fate. The Goddess of Fate also retreated to the side. This time, it was up to the experts of the main shrine to take action. Lin Xian was enveloped by the destiny compass. Several peerless experts took action to change his fate. Defying the heavens and changing one's fate meant breaking the original fate and forming a new fate. Naturally, one could not break a birth chart with their own strength. No matter if you are a great emperor or an earth immortal, you can't do it. It was truly a surprise that Lin Xian could do it. Lin Xian's uncle's fate had been broken, and a new fate had not been condensed. Now, these people were helping Lin Xian condense a new fate. Of course, this process was extremely difficult, and no mistakes were allowed. The Goddess of Fate left the main shrine and guarded outside. It was unknown how long this process would take. To be honest, he was not sure if it would succeed or not. After all, they had never seen the power of an immortal like Lin Xian. It could only be said that everything was unknown. Just as Lin Xian was changing his fate, the outside world had already undergone earth-shaking changes. After decades of war, the universe's starry sky was shattered. There were spatial rifts and black holes everywhere. The buried Emperor Star was also affected. This time, many experts descended on the buried Emperor Star, preparing to take action. It couldn't be helped. The buried Emperor Star was a very special planet. Previously, the Permitha had been fighting in the Nine Netherland and couldn't care about the buried Emperor Star. However, many experts had come out of the buried Emperor Star in recent years. Lin Xian went without saying. He had attained his Tao in the universe and had gone to the land of his destiny. Now he had disappeared. In addition, Murong Qingqing and Yan Ryu had come out of the buried Emperor Star and attained their Tao. There were also Yi Wu Dao, Gu Santong, Northern Demon, and Zhong Lingxiu. There were too many geniuses. On the buried Emperor Star, there were many great emperor clans and even some forbidden lands. Therefore, this time, the Permitha had decided to take action against the buried Emperor Star. The person in charge of this matter was Ghost Immortal. Of course, with his identity as an Earth Immortal, there was no need for him to come here. While he was fighting in the land of the heavens, he sent his Emperor's son over. Young Master Goe brought countless experts. When the war broke out, many clans and sects were no match for them. Their souls were directly taken away and they became vengeful spirits. As for the other clans, such as the Great Emperor clans, they all activated their extreme Tao weapons. They resisted. The people of the Divine Union also came back to fight. However, the situation was not optimistic. The 100 Ghost Army was too terrifying. It was one of the 10,000 ghost armies. However, in the hands of young Master Goe, it was extremely terrifying. More importantly, the other party could control souls. Once an expert was killed, the vengeful spirits and remnant souls would be controlled and turned into an even more terrifying power to attack them. Now, apart from a few forbidden lands and great emperor clans, the buried Emperor Star was not safe. The other places were not safe at all. Fortunately, with these extreme grade weapons, they formed several extreme grade lands to resist the attacks. However, on this day, young Master Goe forcefully condensed the King of 100 Ghost, causing the 100 Ghost Army to become even stronger. Immediately, they began to attack the extreme Tao lands. For example, the Stone Clan, Jade Clan, and Wind Clan were all attacked. Their clans' sacred lands were destroyed. Many people were captured and their souls were taken away. Those desolate ancient clans were incomparably miserable. Even the Qilin clan's defenses were torn apart. Many experts of the Qilin clan died. Fortunately, the Gu clan and Yi clan immediately came to their aid and blocked the attack. Otherwise, the Qilin clan would have been destroyed. In an instant, the people of the buried Emperor Star were extremely nervous. On the Divine Union's side, Bai Susu, Shangguan Shaoxian, and the others were also pale. Given the current situation, we won't be able to hold on for long unless the people from the deity domain arrive. Fu Hongye shook her head. I'm afraid it will be very difficult. This is not the main battlefield. The 9 underworld energy and heaven energy are the main battlefield. Those super great emperors and earthly immortals all have their own opponents. It will be too difficult for them to send their clones over. We can only rely on ourselves. Boom! Just as she finished speaking, a huge claw suddenly swiped down from the sky and struck the Divine Union. The Divine Union shook violently. Fortunately, the Divine Union had extreme Tao weapons to resist. Otherwise, they would not be able to hold on. The Divine Union's extreme Tao weapons were the weapons that Lin Xian had obtained after killing those great emperors. At this moment, the Divine Union had a total of 3 extreme Tao weapons. They supported each other and formed a solid defense. Even so, they were still shocked. What was going on? They looked up at the sky. They saw a dragon shadow appear in the sky. Was the Dragon Clan attacking them? Impossible. Chapter 6178. A huge dragon silhouette appeared in the sky, releasing a terrifying aura. It waved its claws, tearing the sky apart. It was an expert from the dragon tribe. The people of the Divine Union were stunned. After all, Lin Xian was the dragon god who had founded the Dragon Valley. He was in the deity ground. The entire dragon tribe had submitted. How could someone attack him now? Lin Xian, come out and die. A cold voice came from the sky. It was a woman's voice, and it was very vicious. Bai Susu and the others' expressions changed. Oh no, could it be the Dragon Empress Longyu? Lin Xian had killed the Dragon Prince. Back then, the Dragon Empress had awakened from her slumber and led the Dragon Generals to fight Lin Xian. In the end, the Dragon Generals had been killed and the Dragon Empress had been severely injured. At the crucial moment, the Dragon Emperor had saved the Dragon Empress. From then on, she had disappeared without a trace and had never appeared again. She had not even appeared when Lin Xian had confirmed his Tao. Who would have thought that she would appear now when the deity ground and the deity ground were fighting? If you want to fight, I'll accompany you. At that moment, an even louder dragon roar came from afar. The people of the Divine Union exclaimed, "It's Ruzalong! He's here! That's great!" Bai Susu and the others were also shocked. Judging from the other party's aura, Ruzalong had confirmed his Tao. That's right. The Crimson Dragon had confirmed his Tao in the Azure Land and become an emperor. At that moment, he had rushed back and saw Long Yu attacking the Divine Union. He immediately roared. His tail was like a heavenly blade that rushed out and hit Long Yu. Long Yu rolled on the ground. "You're courting death." Long Yu roared the sky and spat out a huge bolt of lightning. This bolt of lightning could split the sky. It hit the Crimson Dragon, causing many of the Crimson Dragon's dragon scales to fall off. In the next moment, the two dragons fought in the sky. "Damn it! I'm the Dragon Empress of the 10,000 Dragons Court. 10,000 dragons, submit to me. How dare you attack me?" Long Yu roared crazily. The Crimson Dragon sneered. "The 1,000 Dragons dynasty was destroyed long ago. What right do you have to be arrogant in front of the dragons? Not to mention in front of Ben Huang." Boom, boom, boom. The battle between the two became more and more intense. The power of the Crimson Dragon's Earth Scripture caused Long Yu to roll on the ground. Many of his dragon scales were broken, and his dragon horns were shattered. "That's great. I managed to suppress him." The members of the Divine Union cheered when they saw this. However, at this moment, above the 9 heavens, another dragon claw swiped down. Not good. The Crimson Dragon's expression changed, and it quickly dodged. However, the claw still landed on its body. Half of its tail was slapped off, and blood splattered everywhere. With a roar, he quickly dodged and hid in the Divine Union. "Are you hurt?" Fu Hongye and the others were nervous. "Martial Uncle Shenlong, how are you?" Damn it! Ben Huang was in so much pain. The Crimson Dragon bared its fangs. At the same time, he was shocked. How could this be? Did the Dragon Emperor come out? One had to know that after he became a Dharch, his strength had increased greatly. With his bloodline and the Earth Scripture, defeating Long Yu was not a problem at all. Now, only the Dragon Emperor could injure him with a single palm. The other party had been a Dharch for a long time. Who knew what realm he was at now? Perhaps he had already become a super Dharch. If that was the case, it would be troublesome. "Brother Tian." Long Yu was overjoyed. Her broken body healed, and she flew above the 9 heavens, transforming into a female figure once again. At the same time, a tall man appeared in the sky. This person had a pair of dragon horns on his forehead, and the dragon aura on his body was extremely terrifying. "I am the Dragon Emperor. You're just a little dragon. Why aren't you submitting to me?" Long Outyen's voice was extremely cold, and it resounded throughout the land. At this moment, the hidden Emperor star trembled. Had the Dragon Emperor appeared? The Yi and Gu families were shocked. This was the founder of the 10,000 Dragon Dynasty. After countless years, the other party had appeared again. They were both shocked and envious. They did not know where their family's ancestors had gone. For example, where were the Void Dharch, the Qilin Emperor, and the Kunpeng Dharch? In the sky, Long Xiaoyan's gaze fell. "Since Lin Xian is not here, I'll kill you all first. I'll suppress your souls, string them into chains, and make you suffer by my side forever. When that Lin Wudi appears, I'll kill him." After saying that, he began to counterattack the Divine Union. The Crimson Dragon and the others roared. As they moved, they activated their 3 extreme grade weapons. At the same time, they sent a voice transmission to the Yi and Gu families. "Attack together. I'm afraid he has become a super Dharch. We can't suppress him." The Divine Union erupted. 3 extreme grade auras shot into the sky. At the same time, The Crimson Dragon's Tharch power also erupted. The Toad had also returned. However, he was still a half-step Tharch, not a complete Tharch. Shangguan Shaoxian, Fu Hongya, Bai Susu, and the others were all quasi-Thearchs. There was no choice. Even if one could become a Tharch in the Azure Land and the 9 underworlds, it was really too difficult to become a Tharch. Now, on the Divine Union's side, besides Murong Qingqing and Yen Ryu, only the Crimson Dragon had proven his Tao again and become a Tharch. A great battle broke out in an instant. Although there were a few extreme-grade weapons, Long Xiaotian was not afraid at all. He used his exceptional mystique and summoned the clouds and rain. 9 clouds and clouds. Above the 9 heavens, wind and clouds gathered, and a terrifying force came crashing down. The 3 extreme-grade weapons dimmed. However, at this moment, the Gu and Yi families also made their move. Terrifying Immortal King phantoms and terrifying spatial rifts spread all over. Long Xiaotian roared, "Do you all want to die too? In that case, I'll fulfill your wishes." Long Xiaotian roared at the sky and transformed into a terrifying dragon. Long Yu also moved out with him. The 2 dragons attacked, sweeping across the sky and earth. It seemed like not only did they want to destroy the Divine Union, but they also wanted to destroy the Tharch families. The Gu and Yi families were hurt. Many people were injured and died. Some people on the Divine Union's side vomited blood. Some people even died. The Crimson Dragon's eyes were red. "Long Xiaotian, you're courting death. We can't do anything to you, but Lin Xian will definitely kill you when he returns." "Kill me? Humph. I'm afraid he won't be able to return in this lifetime." Long Xiaotian snorted and continued to attack. He spewed out terrifying seawater, forming a dragon sea that pressed down directly. He wanted to bury the Divine Union under the sea. However, at this moment, an iron rod flew over from far away. Sea-calming Divine Needle. It directly pierced through the sea. Long Xiaotian retreated as if he had been struck by lightning and spat out a mouthful of dragon blood. "Brother Tian." Long Yu was extremely nervous. Long Xiaotian gritted his teeth. "It's a divine weapon. Damn it." He had not expected that at this critical moment there would still be someone who could deal with them. "Go." Long Xiaotian fled. The people of the Divine Union below heaved a sigh of relief. The Toad said, "Is it the battle god?" The Crimson Dragon shook his head. "No. If it was the battle god, that rod would have destroyed Long Xiaotian's heart and soul. I think it should be Sun Qitian." That monkey attacked again. Sure enough, the sea-steadying needles were withdrawn. At the same time, Sun Qitian's voice was heard. "Be careful, don't go out again. I can't rush over now." As soon as he finished speaking, Sun Qitian's figure disappeared from sight. The situation was really dangerous. The Crimson Dragon and the others had solemn expressions. There were battles everywhere now, and there were too many enemies. There was the other shore, the Supreme Hall, the 9 Serenities, and now Long Xiaotian had appeared. It could be said that there were enemies everywhere. He wondered how Lin Xian was doing. Did he successfully go to the land of destiny? Did he defy the heavens and change his fate? If he did not return, they would not be able to hold on. At the same time, in the Destiny Shrine of the Land of Destiny, Lin Xian opened his eyes. Chapter 61-79. The crisis brought about by the Dragon Emperor was temporarily resolved. The Divine Union heaved a sigh of relief. However, young Master Gue came again. He led hundreds of ghosts and formed the Ghost Tribe. They were everywhere, collecting the souls of the powerhouses in the hidden Emperor Star. This was much more terrifying than the crisis brought about by the Dragon Emperor. For a moment, everyone was terrified. Before long, the Kuan Peng tribe's extreme weapon defense was penetrated. Many of the elders' souls were taken away. Next, the Yi family and the Gu family were attacked. Retreat, retreat quickly. These great emperor clans joined forces at this moment. It couldn't be helped. A single extreme weapon couldn't completely resist the other party. Even the divine union had been affected. That great battle was extremely terrifying. The Crimson Dragon and the others were also forced to leave wholly distant ancient city. During this process, Shangguan Shaoxian, Nalan Liang, and the others were also captured. Their souls had been sucked away. It wasn't just them. Even the savage wilderness ancestor was the same. The fantasy world ancestor's soul was severely injured. The fantasy world ancestor was originally a soul expert. However, he couldn't resist the army of ghosts. Ha! Young Master Gui laughed. These captured souls were all sealed under the soul-suppressing pagoda. The soul-suppressing pagoda was extremely terrifying. It was a powerful extreme weapon. In the soul-suppressing pagoda, these souls were tortured endlessly. Damn it! The Crimson Dragon and the others roared and led people to sneak attack the soul-suppressing pagoda, wanting to save the people inside. However, they still failed. Not only that, but they were also injured even more. You can't escape. Young Master Gui's eyes were filled with extremely cold, killing intent. Then, he urged the army of ghosts to attack again. On this planet, the more powerhouses died, the stronger his army of ghosts would be. It seemed like it wouldn't be difficult to completely destroy the hidden Emperor Star. At the same time, in the mysterious Destiny Land, in the Destiny Shrine, Lin Xian opened his eyes. He stood up and roared at the sky. At this moment, a force passed through the Destiny Shrine and pierced through heaven and earth. The entire land of Destiny was in turmoil. At this moment, everyone was shocked. What kind of force was this? They raised their heads and looked into the distance. All living beings below the great Emperor realm prostrated themselves before him. The great emperors trembled. The super great emperors were terrified too. Even the earth immortals were alarmed and stood up one by one. The wind god and fire god were no longer in seclusion. They walked out and cried out in surprise. Was it that brat's power? Had his divine immortal power completely stabilized? They had seen Lin Xian before and knew that Lin Xian possessed the power of an immortal. However, they could also see that Lin Xian's divine power could not be used at will. However, at this moment, they could sense that the power of the gods seemed to have become even more stable. It was different from before. Was this kid about to break through? This was too heaven-defying. After becoming a martial monarch, it was extremely difficult to improve his cultivation any further. Every tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years, they might not succeed. But now this kid was only 100 years old, and his strength was going to advance by leaps and bounds, as expected of the child of destiny. In the Shrine of Destiny, Lin Xian was also delighted. He felt that, at this moment, he was using the power of the gods, and his body would no longer be affected. This feeling was really great. Thank you, seniors. Lin Xian looked at the figures in the sky and bowed deeply. Indeed, without the Shrine of Destiny, he probably wouldn't be in this state. Did he succeed? The voices in the sky also heaved a sigh of relief. To be honest, they were only half confident. After all, this was something they had never experienced before. However, it seemed that the progress was very good. Outside the hall, the goddess of destiny also walked over. After seeing Lin Xian, she took a deep breath. The other party had become different. He was like a peerless divine sword, revealing his sharpness. You succeeded. Congratulations. The goddess of destiny smiled. Lin Xian nodded and then said, "Where's the gate of hope?" "I'll help you open it. I'll do my best, but can I succeed? I'm not sure either." Lin Xian was now very curious. What is the gate of hope? However, a beautiful middle-aged woman in the sky said, "No, it's not in a hurry. Now, you can't open the gate of destiny." "What do you mean?" Lin Xian was stunned. He said, "Senior, after the power of the gods is stabilized, I will leave the place of destiny. I'm afraid I won't have a chance to come back in the future. The middle-aged woman said, You will come back. Although we have temporarily helped you stabilize the power of the gods, it is not permanent. However, it is not permanent. You need to come back again. Come back again. Lin Xian was stunned. The middle-aged woman said, What we helped you stabilize is actually not the power of the gods, but your new fate. However, your fate is too rare. Now it seems that the fate has been condensed, but what will the result be? We can't say. So, we think that in 400 years you can come again. At that time, we should be able to study it thoroughly. Let's completely condense your new fate. Of course, during this period, you can leave this place. Come again in 400 years? No problem. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he could go back now, it was fine. Of course. He didn't forget that he had other things to do. Senior, do you mean that I will come again in 400 years and then open the gate of hope? That's right. The middle-aged woman said, We will give you a token. When the time comes, you can come over. With that, she waved her hand, and a token of the Fane of Destiny appeared in front of Lin Xian. Lin Xian carefully put it away. With this thing, he could come back again. By the way, there is one more thing. I want to find a person named Yi. I don't know if the seniors have heard of him. Of course, Lin Xian wouldn't forget that before he came, Lord Alcohol, the fighting god, and the others had specially instructed him. He had to find this person, because this was very important to the future battles of the divine realm. The peerless experts in the sky were stunned when they heard this name. Then they seemed to remember something. So it's him. They waved their hands, and the destiny compass in the sky began to spin again. Then a little light flickered. However, it soon disappeared. Lin Xian was stunned. He had some understanding of the destiny compass. The stars on it were each person's destiny. That starlight had disappeared. Could it be that he had died? What should he do? Lin Xian was a little stunned. However, the middle-aged woman said, We know what you mean by Yi. However, you can't find him now, because he was still not Yi. What's going on? Lin Xian was even more confused. The middle-aged woman said, Let's talk about it next time. When you come again in 400 years, he might appear. Who is this Yi? Why hasn't he appeared now? Why is he so important to the divine realm? Lord Alcohol and the fighting god didn't tell him all this. He wanted to ask the experts in the sky. However, those peerless experts just smiled and didn't say anything. This is your business. If you want to know, go back and ask your elders. All right. Lin Xian nodded. This was the only way for now. Although he couldn't find Yi, his situation was temporarily resolved. This way, there was no need for him to stay in the land of destiny. He said, Senior, how can I leave? I want to go back. Go. Remember, today, for 100 years later, you must come back. Otherwise, we can't predict what will happen to your destiny. I will remember. Lin Xian thanked him again. Then he and the goddess of destiny left the main temple. Chapter 6180. The goddess of destiny took Lin Xian to the ninth sky island. There was a huge spatial door that allowed Lin Xian to leave. When Lin Xian arrived at the island, he found that the spatial door was completely sealed. Moreover, there was a desolate aura around it. The goddess of destiny said, This teleportation station hasn't been opened for a long time. You are the first to use it in 1,000,000 years. After saying this, the goddess of destiny took out a piece of metal from her storage ring. It was a triangular piece of metal. She placed it in the center of the array. Only then was the entire array complete. In the next moment, she injected power into the array and slowly activated it. Go. Stand on the teleportation array, and you will leave the land of destiny. 400 years later, When you come back, you must crush that token. You only have one chance. Don't forget, crush the token? Lin Xian was surprised. Then he understood. This should be the self-protection of the land of destiny. If this token was permanent, there would probably be an endless stream of people coming in. But now this token could only be used once. Even if it was taken away, it would only be replaced by another person. It wouldn't affect the overall situation. Of course, Lin Xian wouldn't let others take this token away. He carefully placed it in the small world, waved his hand, and said goodbye to the goddess of destiny. In the next moment, Lin Xian stepped into the teleportation array. His figure disappeared. He was gone. The first elder flew over from afar and said as he looked at the slowly closing array. The goddess of destiny nodded. She removed the piece of metal in the center of the array again and put it in the storage ring. Then she said, "It seems that the battle outside has begun. For 100 years. Do you think he can come back alive?" "He should be able to," the first elder said. "After all, he has condensed the power of an immortal. He is a unique existence in the world. Well, let's wait for him for 400 years. In the starry sky of the universe, a spatial door opened, and a figure walked out from it. This figure was naturally Lin Xian. He had just teleported back from the land of destiny. The moment he came out, he felt dizzy. This was an extremely long-distance teleportation. Even with his body and soul, he found it somewhat difficult to endure. After coming out, he waved his hand and took out the immortal slaying sword to defend himself. After a while, his soul slowly stabilized. In the next moment, he looked around. The surroundings were very quiet. However, Lin Xian furrowed his brows. The reason for that was because he discovered that there were many spatial cracks in his surroundings. Those spatial cracks were extremely frightening. It didn't seem to have healed. This stunned him. Was there a great battle here? I wonder how the myriad worlds have been in the past 100 years. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath, rose into the air, and flew into the distance. However, after half a day, his expression turned incomparably cold. Considering his speed, he must have flown through many galaxies in just half a day. However, there were black holes and cracks everywhere. In addition, he also saw some withered planets. Some stars were split in half by the sword. Some of the stars were torn apart. There were also stars that were extremely dry. All the living beings on them had been destroyed, leaving only countless bones. What exactly happened? Lin Xian was stunned. Logically speaking, even if there were some strange stars in the myriad worlds, there shouldn't be so many of them. Along the way, there wasn't a single intact star. Had the world war become so terrifying? Finally, on a planet that was missing half of its surface, Lin Xian saw some people. These people were injured all over their bodies. They were very weak and their faces were pale. When they saw someone arrive, they were as if they were facing a great enemy. Lin Xian walked over. He threw out some pills for these people to absorb. At the same time, he asked, "What exactly is going on? Why is this universe so broken?" When those people saw the pills, they immediately snatched them and swallowed them. Hearing Lin Xian's words, they were all stunned. "Young master, you don't know? Young master, where have you been for the past 100 years? Lin Xian said, "I was cultivating in seclusion in a place. I didn't expect to become like this after I came out. So that's how it is." One of the middle-aged men said, 100 years ago, Lin Wudi proved his Tao in the universe and caused a battle between the divine realm and the Permethar realm. That battle lasted for decades, and both sides were immortal-level figures. That battle caused many large cracks to appear in the universe, as well as countless black holes. Some worlds were reduced to ashes. Lin Xian was shocked when he heard this. They actually fought for decades. It was really beyond his expectations. He asked, "What's the result?" Right now, he was very worried about Lin Zhan, Lord Nine, and the others. The middle-aged man said, I heard that the two sides fought to a draw and went back respectively. Originally, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. However, the good times didn't last long. A few years later, the Permitha realm attacked crazily again. At first, they fought in the netherworld. Later, they went to the heavenly land. These have nothing to do with us. However, the Permitha realm seems to be really crazy. They actually sent people to attack the myriad worlds. I once saw with my own eyes that countless ghosts swept across the world. The souls of half of the powerhouses in our world were captured. Did the Permitha realm do it? Lin Xian frowned tightly. The middle-aged man said, "Yes, I originally thought that the battle between the Permitha realm and the realm of the gods was just to prove their Tao. Later, I realized that it wasn't like that at all. The people of the Permitha realm are too arrogant. Those who submit will prosper, and those who resist will die. The Permitha realm once sent people to suppress one side. Anyone who tried to resist would be killed immediately. Some even became puppets and lived a life worse than death. On the other hand, the realm of the gods didn't attack other families and sects except for the Battle of Tao. To be honest, we used to think that these two sides were the same. Now it seems that it's not like that at all. We hoped that the realm of the gods would win and defeat the Permitha realm. But now it seems that they are more terrifying than the Permitha realm. Young master, I think you'd better go back and cultivate in seclusion. It's very dangerous to come out. If a genius like you is targeted by the Permitha realm, you will either die or surrender. But which genius is willing to lower his head and be a slave?" Lin Xian's face turned cold after hearing this. The battle was more terrifying than he had imagined. Were the myriad worlds affected? Damn it. He took out a few bottles of elixirs and gave them to these people, saying, "Find a place to hide and recuperate. Don't come out again. As for the Permitha realm, leave it to us. Don't worry, one day I will personally end the Permitha realm." After saying that, Lin Xian soared into the sky and disappeared. Along the way, he encountered a few more shattered worlds. This made his face extremely ugly. Even the worlds that were unrelated to him were like this. What happened to the realm of the gods that was related to him? There was also the Divine Union and the hidden Emperor Star. Now he had to go back quickly. Thinking of this, he sped up and turned into a bolt of lightning. In an instant, he tore through the void. Finally, he arrived near the hidden Emperor Star. Looking from afar, Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the hidden Emperor Star was still intact. It seemed that it hadn't suffered too much damage. However, as he landed, his brows furrowed tightly. Why did he feel that there was a trace of ghost fog pervading the entire hidden Emperor Star? This gloomy and cold aura made him extremely uncomfortable. What happened? Chapter 60, 181. Sensing the changes in the hidden Emperor Star, Lin Xian furrowed his brows. He recalled what he had heard from other planets. Was this the 10,000 ghost army? He snorted coldly as his soul spirit began to search the area. In the next moment, he was stunned. Then he quickly rushed over. In the mountains and rivers below, there was a giant python. It was a black python that was 10,000 meters long. Its body was huge, and its scales were cold and radiant. There were many figures standing on top of this giant python. Most of them had their bodies pierced through by the black chains. These chains had an extremely cold aura that flickered. The powerhouses who had been pierced through were seriously injured and could not resist at all. Not only that, but there was a needle in their heads. It was a very thin black needle. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to tell that it was a spirit-stabilizing needle. It was this needle that had pierced the souls of these powerhouses. These powerhouses could only be tortured and could not escape. They could not even self-destruct. Damn it, let me go if you have the guts. Among them, there was a tall figure who gritted his teeth and roared. "One-on-one? You! You are just a prisoner." Around them, there were some people in black robes. However, what was under the black robes was not a body, but a soul. They were indeed ghosts. These were the members of the 10,000 ghost army. Of course, they now called themselves the ghost race. These people from the ghost race sneered. One of them, called Gui Ling, slapped the tall man's face. "Just you? You are not qualified to challenge us. Later, we'll send you to the Soul Pagoda and begin to extract your souls. Aren't you very arrogant? I will turn you into an extremely terrifying battle servant. I will make you crawl under my feet forever." Ha! He laughed proudly. The tall man was so angry that he vomited blood. A look of despair appeared in the eyes of the others. Next, they would either be swallowed and turned into nutrients or become puppets. In short, they would rather die. Damn it. Just you wait. Someone will come to save us. Someone will destroy all of you. The tall man spoke again. Save you? Are you talking about the people from the Divine Union? The Divine Union was beaten up and left the ancient city. Where are you hiding now? You don't even know. Are you still hoping that someone will save you? Gui Ling sneered. We still have Lin Xian. He will come back one day. Lin Xian? How could a person whose fate was unknown still be alive? The ghost clansman sneered and remained unmoved. It seems that the chains given to you are too few. Men, give him 7 more chains and run them through his internal organs. Yes, a few more black-robed men floated over. Chains appeared in their hands as they charged towards the tall man. The tall man roared towards the sky. However, he was unable to resist. At this moment, a cold snort came from afar. Then, a sword light flashed, and the chain was cut in half. The 2 black-robed men who attacked were also killed. Killing 2 ghost clansmen with a single sword strike stunned everyone. The 10,000-meter-long black python stopped as well. Gui Ling shouted in a low voice, "Enemy!" In the next moment, everyone acted as if they were facing a great enemy. Gui Ling looked around and shouted coldly, "Who is it? How dare you go against the ghost clan? Are you tired of living?" Whoa! There was no reply, only an extremely cold sword light descending from the sky. In an instant, it pierced through Gui Ling's body. His black battle robe was destroyed, and he turned into a soul that wanted to escape. However, he was pierced through in an instant. With a clang, this sword chi not only pierced through Gui Ling, but it also pierced through the python and nailed it to the ground. The python let out a painful roar. On the other hand, Gui Ling was incomparably mournful. It was as if his soul had been shattered. Ah, damn it. Attack! The members of the 10,000 ghost army looked around and wanted to attack. However, with a slash of the sword, dozens of ghost clansmen died. At this moment, the ghost clansmen were stunned. Who was it? Was there anyone on the hidden Emperor planet who could contend against them? One had to know that when the 10,000 ghost army appeared, the great Emperor clans were destroyed. Even extreme weapons could not stop them. They had even captured many people from the Divine Union. On this planet, they were the kings. They were high and mighty. However, someone dared to challenge them. This was unforgivable. You all really deserve to die. In the sky, a figure descended. Everyone turned their heads to look. Who are you? The ghost clansmen roared angrily. The experts who were pierced by the chains were also stunned. A trace of confusion appeared in their eyes. However, the tall man was so excited that he started to tremble. Lin Gongzi, you're back. You're finally back. Ha! I'm not dreaming, am I? He looked up to the sky and laughed. The others exclaimed in surprise. Lin Gongzi? Which Lin Gongzi? Could it be that he was Lin Wudi? No way, right? He was actually still alive? Didn't they say that 100 years ago, when he was confirming his Tao, he was struck by heavenly punishment and his life and death was unknown? He actually didn't die. That's great. Lin Gongzi, please save us. They knew that Lin Xian was a top genius of the Hidden Emperor planet. His strength was extremely powerful. Now that he was alive, he should have already become a great emperor. How terrifying was such a person's strength! They hurriedly shouted. The 10,000 ghost army was also stunned. The ghost clansmen were stunned. Lin Wudi, was that the legendary person? To be honest, they had never seen him before, but they had heard of him. Was he the person in front of them? If they caught him, it would be a great merit. That's right, if they caught him, they would be able to condense their bodies, and they would no longer be ghosts. In an instant, hundreds of ghost clansmen rushed over. Die! The person who descended was Lin Xian. At this moment, he was extremely angry. Even the savage ancestor was captured, and the others were all seriously injured. The situation was very bad, and the enemy was these ghost clansmen? Unforgivable. He used the Rinnegan. Immediately, the 6 paths of reincarnation enveloped hundreds of ghost clan experts. In the next moment, their souls were swallowed. No, I don't want to enter the cycle of reincarnation. These people roared crazily. However, in an instant, they were turned into ashes. Dead. They were all dead. With a single glance, hundreds of experts had fallen. What kind of power was this? The remaining ghost clansmen were so scared that they knelt on the ground, their bodies trembling. Spare us! Spare us! We were just following orders. Yes, everything was young Master Gui's orders. We didn't dare to resist at all. If you didn't dare to resist, you dared to attack the Hidden Emperor Star? If you didn't dare to resist, you tortured others? You are unforgivable. Lin Xian used the Rinnegan again, and a reincarnation sword light slashed out, directly destroying heaven and earth. Once the remaining ghost clansmen were enveloped by the sword chi, they were all turned into ashes. In the end, only one person was still alive. This person was Gui Ling. Should he spare him? But in the next moment, Lin Xian directly grabbed his soul with one hand and grabbed him. Soul search. He wanted to know what was going on with this 10,000 ghost army. Soon he waved his hand and directly tore Gui Ling into pieces. Young Master Gui, 100 ghosts were out. The Ghost Clan. He would not let a single one go. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.